Chapter 31-35. As long as they find food, even if it's rotten, it's bound to contain abundant spiritual power, enough to keep them full for several days. If they find magic weapon fragments, although they can't eat them, they can still take them to the ghost fair to trade. However, because there are too many people rummaging, there's less and less food in the garbage mountain. Often, after searching for 2 or 3 days, they'll be exhausted, but still find nothing. They can't fill their stomachs. This kind of life is simply unimaginable for Mu Yen. But Guodapeng and the others seem to be used to it. When we can't find food in the garbage mountain, we come to the Yunluo mountain to hunt sluggish beasts. Sluggish beast. Sluggish beast is delicious. Big brother, I want to eat sluggish beast. Guodapeng drooled. Guodapeng knocks him on the head and snappily says, "Shut up, do you think sluggish beasts are so easy to catch?" Mu Yen is puzzled. Is sluggish beast very strong? That's not it. Guodapeng immediately puts on a flattering and careful smile as he talks to Mu Yen. Sluggish beasts are actually cloud beasts' companion beasts. They usually lie on the back of cloud beasts. Only very occasionally will they leave their cloud beasts, and that's the only time we can capture them. Cloud beasts. Mu Yen suddenly thinks of something and raises the sharp knife she just grabbed from Changjia. Is this knife made from the bones of cloud beasts? Yes. Heroine, you're so smart. Guodapeng nods again and again, looking at the sharp knife in Mu Yan's hand with shining eyes, like looking at a precious holy object. Cloud beasts are extremely powerful. If we want to hunt them, we need to organize an elite team of at least 100 people to succeed. But once the cloud beasts are killed, the harvest is great. The whole body of cloud beasts is a treasure, and the swords made from their bones are no worse than the treasured swords thrown in by the floating island. Also, their skin can be made into the strongest armor. Their meat is a world's delicacy. Roar! Guodapeng hasn't finished his words when suddenly a roar comes from the sky. There's a sudden gale on the barren mountain, blowing sand and pebbles. Guodapeng's voice stops abruptly, and he stiffly raises his head to look at the sky. When he sees the huge black wings spread above, he screams in horror. Cloud beasts. It was a cloud beast. It must have been attracted by the smell of blood. Run! Run! Guodapeng grabbed his younger brother and ran into the distance without a care for anything else. Mu Yen looks up at the giant beast in the sky, revealing an indescribable expression. Cloud beast. The name was so poetic and pleasant to hear. In the end, his appearance was too unsightly. It was a complete skeleton wrapped in a layer of black skin, and there were thousands of lumps of flesh on the skin. It looked like a toad that had been magnified countless times and then pulled into the shape of a bird. The cloud beast in the sky also saw the prey on the ground. After letting out a strange cry, it swooped down like a bolt of lightning towards the Guo brothers. No! Don't come any closer. Guodapeng's eyes were filled with fear and despair. He took one last look at his younger brother, who was already dumbfounded. Disregarding everything else, she pounced on him and pinned him beneath her. He was waiting for the cloud beast's sharp claws to tear his body apart. However, the expected pain did not come. It was replaced by the sharp and angry roars of the cloud beasts. Guodapeng blankly raises his head to look. He saw that the cloud beast that had swooped down had rushed up to the sky at some unknown time. Chapter 31-36. Its gigantic body kept tumbling in the air, kicking up a cloud of yellow sand. He could vaguely see a slender figure standing steadily on the cloud beast's neck. Guodapeng slowly opened his mouth, revealing an expression of disbelief. Was it that heroine? She was actually standing on the neck of a cloud beast. Furthermore, no matter how the cloud beast swooped down, rolled, and crashed, the young girl's figure remained steady. Guadapeng knew that the best thing to do now was to escape with his younger brother while the cloud beast was distracted by the girl. But his feet seemed to be fixed in place, and his eyes were glued to the top, unwilling to move even an inch. There was only one thought in his mind: what does this girl want? Even a team of over 100 strong men might not be able to kill a cloud beast on the rocky hill. Could it be that this seemingly weak and slender girl wanted to kill it by herself? How was this possible? The next moment, Guadapeng saw a scene that he would never forget. A translucent long sword slowly appeared in the girl's palm. Under the illumination of the sun, the long sword emitted a colorful and dazzling light. Then, the girl raised her sword and lightly swung it at the rock's neck. A mournful cry pierced through the air. Then, Guadapeng watched helplessly as the huge black shadow fell from the sky and smashed heavily onto the ground. Sand and dust flew everywhere, and the earth trembled. The giant head of the cloud beast landed 5 meters away from Guadapeng. A pair of gray vertical pupils were wide open, seemingly filled with unwillingness and disbelief. Guadapeng felt like he was dreaming. He didn't even dare to cough when he choked on the dust. He just stared blankly at the beheaded cloud beast. He watched as the muddy girl slowly landed on the ground. Bang, bang, bang. Mu Yan kicks the furry little things lying on the back of the cloud beast one by one. Is this the sluggish beast you mentioned? Why did it look like a mouse? It's just that it's 3 to 4 times bigger than a mouse in the Yinwu continent. These recovery beasts clearly didn't have any combat power. With a casual kick from Mu Yan, he fainted. Brother, big brother, there are so many recovery beasts. Brother, do you see them? We can eat our fill. Grandpa and little sister won't be hungry anymore. Guadapeng hurriedly stopped his younger brother, who was about to rush over to catch the sluggish beast. Erping, behave yourself. These belong to the heroine. Who said you can take them? Take it. Mu Yan casually waved her hand. I'm not interested in eating mice. And the biggest problem was that even if she was interested, she didn't know how to cook. He couldn't let her eat raw mice, right? What? Heroine, you mean to say that you're giving us all of these beasts? Are you telling the truth? Mu Yan didn't care about the Guo brothers' ecstasy. At this time, she was holding the 7 absolute sword and circling around the corpse of the cloud beast. In the end, he raised his sword and pulled out a palm-sized bone from the back of the cloud beast. Mu Yan discovered that only this bone was emitting a unique energy fluctuation. She leaned the bone against the 7 absolute sword in her hand. The 7 absolute sword immediately let out a violent buzzing sound, as if it wanted to swallow the bone immediately. Qi Huang, do you know what this thing is? She heard a disjointed voice. Condense the heart of the sword, gather enough, find a refiner, forge the 7749. Natal sword array. She didn't know if it was because she couldn't use her spiritual power now, or if it was because of the peculiarity of the gravel hill. Chapter 31-37. Mu Yan can't open the Tian Mo Chin space right now, and Little Phoenix and the others can't come out either. The connection between her and Qi Huang is also intermittently broken. But Mu Yan still understands Qi Huang's meaning. This thing can be used to forge her natal sword. And Qi Huang has expressed extreme contempt for her having only one natal sword a long time ago. According to Qi Huang's meaning, even that pretty boy Luo Yunxiao has more than a dozen natal swords. If Mu Yan only has one, where would he, the honorable spirit, put his face? Therefore, she must forge Qi Huang's 49 natal swords to form an invincible sword array. Otherwise, she won't be finished. Even with Mu Yan's confidence and arrogance, the corners of her mouth can't help but twitch when she thinks of this. It's already amazing for others to have one natal sword. Forge 49 natal swords? Qi Shao Huang, are you fucking kidding me? But when she thinks of the scene of this brat throwing a tantrum if she doesn't fulfill his wish, Mu Yan helplessly turns to look at Guodupeng. Are there very few cloud beasts in Gravel Hill? No, there are many cloud beasts in Gravel Hill. It's just that they are in the depths of Mount Yunluo and rarely come here. Guodupeng suddenly stares at Mu Yan. Heroine, don't tell me you want to go to Mount Yunluo to hunt cloud beasts. This must not be done. Cloud beasts usually appear in groups of 3 or 5, and the deeper you go into Mount Yunluo, the higher the level of the cloud beasts. For some reason, those high-level cloud beasts rarely come out of Mount Yunluo, but rumor has it that as long as a high-level cloud beast comes out, it can directly destroy a town. Heroine, you are indeed skilled in martial arts, but it's still too dangerous to go into Mount Yunluo alone. Mu Yan smiles, thank you for the reminder. Then she waves her hand and turns to walk towards the depths of Mount Yunluo without hesitation. Hey, Heroine, the corpse of this cloud beast, I'll give it to you. Take it as thanks for the information you provided. Guodupeng stares blankly at the girl's gradually disappearing figure in the distance, then looks at the ground full of recovery beasts and cloud beasts' corpses. After a long while, he murmurs, Erping, are we really not dreaming? This is already Mayan's 5th day at Mount Yunluo. She was surrounded by the corpses of cloud beasts, and she was filthy beyond recognition. It wasn't that she didn't want to change her clothes, but the spiritual power in her dantian was still pitifully little. She still can't open the Tian Mo Qin space. Even the cloud bone, which he had painstakingly removed, could only be wrapped in a piece of beast skin and carried on his back. Coo, 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 the dirty little Inghuo rolled to her feet and let out a cheerful cackle. Mu Yan looks at this naive and sweet child and is speechless. He really didn't know what breed this stupid chicken was. She and Qi Huang couldn't break the Tian Mo Qin space enchantment, but it can enter and leave whenever it wants. However, this guy didn't even have the slightest bit of combat power. Every time he came out, he would either cause trouble or cry for help. Gugajiji, mommy, mommy. Huang was hungry. He wanted to eat Wu Wu's cooking. 55 referred to 5th senior brother Ling Yuxing. The little chick liked to repeat words when addressing people, and its mind was like that of a child. As a result, the people of the Xiaoyao sect became 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, and Wu Wu in his mouth. After that, the little chick shook its dirty feathers and added a sentence. I want to eat Papa's cooking the most. Wonderful. Chapter 31-38. Mu Yan rolls her eyes. She's also hungry. She also wants to eat the dishes cooked by Di Mingju and 5th brother. But the problem is that she's in this damned place with no one to answer her cries. Where can she find Di Mingju and 5th brother? Eat, eat, eat. You only know how to eat. Mu Yan touches her flat belly, pointing at the little chick's head as she righteously reprimands, what else can you do besides eating? You're deliberately bringing up food at this time, aren't you? Guji, the little chick tilts its head, turning its round head. Then it spits out a bubble and scurries into her arms. Mu Yan has lost her temper because of this child. Just as she's about to say something, her complexion suddenly changes. Huang, go back to the space. The little chick looks at Mu Yan's expression. This time, it doesn't dare to act rashly, and quickly returns to the Tian Mo Qin space. Almost at the same time as the little chick disappears. There's a rumbling sound coming from all directions in the wasteland. In the sky, a huge black cloud is following closely behind, rapidly approaching. In just a short moment, the sky, the ground, the lake, and the densely packed cloud beasts have completely surrounded her. Since entering Mount Yunluo, this is the first time Mu Yan's complexion has changed. Cloud beasts really do like to move in groups. But they're usually in groups of 3 to 5, and at most 10. But how many cloud beasts are there in front of her? Flying in the sky, crawling on the ground, swimming in the water, at a glance, there are at least 100. And she can't use her spiritual power right now. She can't even take out the Tian Mo Chin, and she has no other weapons apart from the 7 absolute swords. Roar! The cloud beasts close at hand have red eyes, a crazed look in their eyes, drool dripping from their open mouths. Mu Yan slowly pulls out the 7 absolute swords, the corners of her mouth hooking up into a disdainful smile. Very good. If I kill you all, I won't have to work hard to collect cloud bones anymore. Stellar Domain is released in a flash. On a faraway hill. A youth dressed in white, his eyes covered with red silk, is sitting on a tree, watching the battle in the distance with a contented expression. There are many spiritual fruits beside him, and he's enjoying the show while throwing one into his mouth from time to time. Fourth order domain. Not bad. But it's also true, if he didn't have a bit of skill, how could he let Di Mingju take a fancy to him, and how could he make Jijia so restless and restless? The young man tossed a spirit fruit into his mouth before suddenly yelling again. Ayaya, my shoulder was bitten. How could he be so careless? The teeth of cloud beasts are poisonous. As expected, my movements have slowed down. My leg has also been hit by a poisonous needle. This time, it's really impossible to escape. How pitiful. He said it was pitiful. The youth's face was filled with a gloating smile. The spirit fruit in his mouth seemed to have become even more fragrant and sweet. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly, and he smiled like a shy boy next door. However, the words that came out of his mouth were cold and vicious. It turns out that the woman that Di Mingju fancies is also this kind of senseless trash. Since that's the case, then, go to hell. But in the next instant, the youth's smile froze on his face. He abruptly straightened up and gazed at the faraway wasteland. His 2 elegant sword-like eyebrows tightly knit together. Where is she? In the faraway wasteland, the corpses of cloud beasts are piled up like a mountain. However, the other half were roaring and running around in search of it. But the target that they wanted to attack has already disappeared at some point. Chapter 31-39. A bit interesting. The youth holds the spirit fruit in his mouth, overflowing with interest. It actually disappeared from under my eyes. This is the first time I've encountered such a situation. He operates his divine sense, about to look around carefully. Suddenly, his complexion changes slightly. Before he can move, he gets a heavy kick on his butt. The youth staggers forward, barely grabbing a branch in front of him so that he doesn't fall flat on his face. That handsome and delicate face shows a rare look of astonishment. TSK, you're very happy watching the show here. You even prepared snacks. Mu Yan stretches out her blood-stained hand, grabbing the youth's spirit fruit without hesitation and throwing it into her mouth. More than half of her face was covered in blood and sand, so much so that she could not be seen clearly. Only that pair of phoenix eyes are bright, overflowing with youth, as if they could easily hook away a person's soul. The youth slightly hangs his head, pitifully saying, "Big sister, that's my spirit fruit." Oh. Is that so? Mu Yan stuffs the unfinished spirit fruit into her bag. So? How can you rob a blind person's food? Mu Yan is still holding a spirit fruit in her mouth. Taking a bite, she says with a smile that isn't a smile, "But I'm robbing it, what can you do to me? Let those cloud beasts attack me again." The corner of the youth's mouth slowly hooks up. A gentle breeze blows, brushing his long ink-black hair and the red silk ribbon intertwined with it. "I'm really curious, how did little sister escape from the cloud beasts, and how did you discover my existence?" Mu Yan turns her wrist, and the Tian Mo Qin appears in her hand. Spiritual power surges, and intermittent sounds of the zither resound between heaven and earth. "First, I don't know how old you are, but you're definitely older than me. So don't call me little sister, I'm not interested in recognizing an old monster as my younger brother. Second, I have no enmity with you, we don't know each other, but you led a group of cloud beasts to take my life. What's the reason?" The youth in front of her chuckles. The laughter is very clear and pleasant, but it makes Mu Yan's hair stand on end. She is on full alert, one hand on the Tian Mo Qin, and the other slowly grasps the seven absolute sword. She was in a very dangerous situation during the battle with the cloud beast just now. Fortunately, in the nick of time, the Dantian's spiritual power has been restored to a certain extent, and the Tian Mo Qin is finally taken out. It's also because of the Tian Mo Qin's summer bug language of ice skill. Only then did she learn from the consciousness of the reptilian cloud beasts that someone was manipulating them. Finally, he found the teenager, who was hiding and watching the show. However, the young man in front of him was truly unfathomable. No matter if it was his strength or identity, they both revealed a strange feeling that she was completely unable to see through. Suddenly, Mu Yan's pupils contract. A light breath mixed with the faint fragrance of flowers blew into his ears. Jun Mayan. Mayan, what a nice name. His slender white fingers gently stroked the edge of the Tian Mo Qin. 3 words are engraved there, so shallow that they're almost invisible, Jun Mayan. "If you don't want me to call you little sister, then I'll call you Mayan, Yen, okay?" Mu Yan fiercely swept her sword horizontally. However, the figure that was so close to him disappeared in an instant. In the next moment, he appeared behind her. "Don't be so angry. This Mount Yunluo is within my sphere of influence. If Mayan hadn't barged in, I wouldn't have ordered the cloud beasts to attack you." Chapter 3140. The two of us don't get to know each other without fighting, right? Let me reintroduce myself, my name is Li Weiran, you can call me. Mu Yan stabbed out with her sword. "Oh, Mu Yan, you're so fierce. Didn't I already apologize to you? If you still don't want to calm down, I'll just let you slash me a few times to vent your anger." Mu Yan sneered, "All right, if you have the ability, stand still and let me slash you." As soon as she finished speaking, the Chiju's sword in her hand stabbed out again. But this time, there was a poochie sound. The long sword in her hand really felt the obstruction of the sharp blade piercing into flesh. Mu Yan stared blankly, then saw that the youth's snow-white clothes were gradually dyed with bright red blood. The youth's fair complexion became as pale as paper. His thin lips slightly pursed, barely revealing a smile. Yen, is this enough for you to calm down?" Mu Yan was startled, her expression falling into a trance for a moment. It wasn't because the youth didn't dodge her sword, nor was it because of what he said. But just now, when he stopped smiling and showed a weak expression, it gave her an inexplicable sense of familiarity. But this sense of familiarity only lasted for a moment before disappearing without a trace. Mu Yan frowned, sheathed her sword, and turned to leave. Hey, no way. You just left after stabbing me with your sword. Mu Yan, you can't be so irresponsible, can you? Looking at the youth shamelessly following her, Mu Yan's mouth twitched. Where was this guy's half-dead appearance from just now? He was obviously stabbed in the chest, but he didn't seem to feel it. Mu Yan glanced at him and lightly said, "Didn't you say that Mount Yunluo is within your sphere of influence? I'll give you your mountain now, and you're still not satisfied. As she spoke, her figure had already arrived next to the mountain of cloud beast corpses. Those cloud beasts that hadn't died, because they were no longer under Li Weiran's control, had already regained their consciousness. Seeing Mu Yan now was like seeing a terrifying monster. One by one, they screamed and fled in all directions. Their speed was much faster than when they surrounded her earlier. Mu Yan didn't chase after them, but nimbly dug out the special cloud bone from each of the corpses. When Yungu was done digging, Zhang Xian turned around and realized something. The white-clothed youth with the red scarf over his eyes was still following behind her. She was quiet and obedient, following his every step, and was unbelievably obedient. Mayan frowns. Why are you following me? Li Weiran said pitifully, this Yunluo mountain is too boring. I don't want to stay here alone. But there are so many bad people out there. I don't dare to go out alone. Mayan, can you take me outside to see the world? Mu Yan turns around and looks at him expressionlessly. Is the word idiot written on my face? Ah. Mayan sneers, otherwise, why would you think that I would believe your nonsense? Li Weiran's thin lips curled up, revealing a cute smile. What does it matter whether I believe it or not? In any case, I'm determined to follow you, Mayan. If you don't agree to take me with you, I'll... He slowly moves closer to Mu Yan's ear, murmuring like a lover, I'll kill you, Mayan. Mu Yan slightly narrows her eyes and takes a step back. With a wave of her hand, Chiju's sword appears in her palm. Is that so? Let's give it a try. Li Weiran's smile gradually disappeared. Mayan doesn't believe that I can kill you. Chapter 3141. So what if I believe you? So what if I don't believe you? Mu Yan sneers. The Tian Mo Qin suddenly plays, and the 4th level domain is released without mercy. What I hate the most in my life is when people threaten me. The wind swirls the grass and dust on the ground. The Zhui beasts that lost the protection of the cloud beasts are already panicking. They are now trembling, unable to move. Li Weiran sneers, Mu Yan, have you ever heard of a saying? Fighting against an evenly matched opponent is wise. Fighting against an enemy with a great disparity in strength is courageous. Fighting against an unreachable enemy is foolish. As he speaks, the youth's white robe flutters without any wind. His long black hair intertwines with the glaring red silk, gently swaying. A powerful, almost despair-inducing energy gushes out from Li Weiran's body. It's like a giant beast hovering in the air, as if it could swallow Mu Yan at any time. Cold sweat oozes from her forehead. Mu Yan's hand holding the 7 absolute sword slowly trembles. The youth opposite her, who was just a moment ago, seems to have grown a lot bigger. Even that face has lost its childishness in an instant. It has a trace of cold-blooded disdain and cruelty. But even so, Li Weiran is still smiling lightly. His voice is low and soft. I guess, Mu Yan, you're not such a stupid person, right? Responding to her is the whistling sword light of the 7 absolute sword. If you want to fight, then fight. What nonsense. Dang. Mu Yan's attack is blocked by an ordinary cloud bone that Li Weiran picked up. The powerful recoil caused her to fly backward. But she only pauses in the air for a moment, then quickly swoops down. Li Weiran sneers, and the cloud bone in his hand stabs forward. It's obviously an understated movement, but it instantly finds the flaw in Mu Yan's swordsmanship. Puchi. The sharp cloud bone pierces Mu Yan's heart. In the nick of time, Mu Yan dodges, but her left arm is still cut with a wound so deep that the bone can be seen. Her whole body flies out, heavily hitting the rocks. The rocks shatter, falling on her blood-stained hair. Blood overflows from the corner of her mouth. It was obvious that her spiritual power had been exhausted, which made the girl's lips pale. However, she only paused for a moment. Without even wiping the blood from the corner of her mouth, she once again raised her sword and flew over. Thousands of sword lights exploded in the desolate wilderness. Li Weiran raised his head slightly and looked at the girl holding the sword. His face revealed a rare look of confusion and surprise. There wasn't a trace of pain, fear, or cowardice in those clear and beautiful eyes. Instead, they were burning with the desire to fight. Despite knowing that he wasn't a match for Zhang Xian remained unfazed by his threat and refused to back down. This is the woman that Di Mingju likes. Li Weiran's thin lips curled up. He suddenly threw away the cloud bone in his hand and shouted, "I admit defeat." Mu Yan stumbles, the sword in her hand is not in a hurry, and it almost pierces through the youth's head. She pressed the tip of her sword against Li Weiran's throat and gritted her teeth. "Are you playing with me?" Li Weiran pouted. "What can I do? Can't I beat Mu Yan? And even if I can beat you, I can't bear to kill you. I've never met a woman as interesting as you, Mu Yan, in my entire life." Without waiting for him to finish, Mu Yan pushes the sword in her hand forward. This man is more sinister and cunning than a fox, and more treacherous and perverted than third brother. If she could just kill him like this, Mu Yan wouldn't mind at all. Chapter 3142. But it's clearly impossible. Sure enough, the moment Mayan sends out her sword, the figure in front of her disappears. Li Weiran's aggrieved voice comes from close behind. "I apologize for controlling the cloud beast to attack you, okay?" Mayan touches her forehead and turns to leave. "Damn, this bastard, I can't beat him. My skin isn't as thick as his, what else can I do? I can't provoke him, can't I just hide?" However, reality tells her she really can't. After walking for a while, Mayan finally can't bear it anymore and turns around. "Li Weiran, how long are you going to follow me?" Li Weiran obediently smiled and said, "Of course it's to follow me until I'm not interested in you. When I feel bored, I can kill you with my own hands, Jun Mayan." Mayan looks at him expressionlessly. It's a pity that the youth's face is covered with red silk, covering the most important emotional indicator. Mayan can't see what he's thinking at all. "Do you really have to follow me?" Li Weiran nods. Then, he sees the girl's lips curl up slightly, revealing a mysterious smile. "If you want to follow me, you have to pay a price, right?" Li Weiran is stunned. Did he hear wrong? There's actually someone in this world who dares to make him pay a price. Interesting. It's really getting more and more interesting. The youth also laughs. "I wonder what price Mayan wants me to pay." An hour later, Li Weiran looks at the corpse of the sluggish beast in front of him. He looks up at the girl with a matter-of-fact expression. His voice, which has always been flawless, has a rare hint of inconceivable difficulty. "You want me to roast meat?" "Whatever you want to do." Mayan crosses her arms and resolutely says, "In short, I want to eat a normal hot meal. If you can cook to my satisfaction, I'll allow you to follow me. How about it?" Li Weiran still finds it hard to believe and can't help but ask again, "You want me to cook for you?" Mayan smiles slightly. "Is there a problem?" Li Weiran stares blankly for a long time, then chuckles, "No problem. I think roasting meat is quite interesting." After saying that, he obediently takes the corpse of the sluggish beast. He begins to peel, clean, and process it. Every step of the process was done very well. In the beginning, his movements were still a little inexperienced, but as time went on, he became more and more proficient. It was as if he was used to it. Mu Yan, who was watching from the side, was simply envious. If only she had such cooking skills. Was there a need to be so miserable every time he was left alone in the wilderness? When the sluggish beast was placed on the fire and roasted, the sizzling sound of oil popping could be heard. An alluring fragrance pervaded the mountains and fields. Mu Yan couldn't help but swallow her saliva. For the first time in his heart, he wavered on whether or not he should get rid of Li Weiran. Gugugu, it smelled so good. The little chick, who had been starving for a long time, rolled out of the cafeteria as soon as it smelled the aroma of food. Gee. Woof, woof, woof. Is Daddy here? Or was Woo-Woo roasting meat? It smells so good, Huang Huang wants to eat it. Mu Yan hugged the little chick in her arms and knocked on its head. Quiet. Do you think I don't want to eat it? Can't you see that the meat isn't cooked yet? Thus, one man and one chicken stared at Li Weiran, who was roasting meat. After the time it took for an incense stick to burn, the Hui Hui beast meat was finally cooked. Chapter 31:43. The golden and crispy skin was cut open with a knife, and the juices were dripping out of the tender meat. There was also the seasoning that Li Weiran got from somewhere. The fragrance is like a snake, constantly drilling into Mu Yan's nose. Her stomach, which had been empty for more than 10 days, felt as if there was a hand stirring it, and she couldn't help but let out a rumbling sound. The saliva secretion in his mouth was completely out of control. Chirp chirp chirp. Little Inghua squawked and shot forward like a cannonball. He threw himself into the recovery beast, not fearing the heat, and quickly began to gorge himself. Mu Yan wasn't polite at all. She grabbed a recovery beast's leg and brought it to her mouth to take a bite. Delicious. It was simply too delicious. It's so delicious that Mayan simply wants to cry. Although she had already abstained from eating, as long as there was a little bit of spiritual energy left in her body, it didn't matter if she didn't eat. But I didn't feel it when I was alone. Later, after her appetite was spoiled by Di Mingju and fifth brother, her mouth became picky. Not to mention starving for half a month like this. She wouldn't even be interested in food that was slightly inferior in taste. Who would have thought that Li Weiran's personality was so perverted? His mood was unpredictable, and his origins were unknown, but his culinary skills were so good. Watching the man and the chicken eating heartily. Li Weiran, on the other hand, tore off a small piece of the beast's foreleg and chewed on it in a refined manner. The corners of his mouth were curled up, as if he was very satisfied with the recognition of his craftsmanship. All of a sudden, the little chick, who was happily eating, suddenly raised its head and let out a shrill cry. Goo goo. Mama. So painful. Mu Yan quickly put down the roast meat in her hands and grabbed the little chick. Huang Huang, what's wrong? Gurgle. His stomach hurt. It hurts, Mom. Mu Yan took out a pill and was about to stuff it into the little chick's mouth. Suddenly, his fingers trembled and his face turned pale. His trembling lips were now mottled with green and purple. She suddenly raised her head and glared at the young man not far away. You poisoned me. Li Weiran giggled. I've been discovered. Mu Yan, you can't blame me. I brought so many seasonings with me. Some of them are poisonous, and some are not. I was too focused on roasting the meat, so it's normal that I couldn't tell them apart. As the youth spoke, he approached Mu Yan with a smile that was not a smile. Tilting her head slightly, she revealed an innocent and pure expression. You look like you're in pain. If I'm not wrong, Mu Yan, you should be poisoned by the rotting heart powder. If you don't detoxify it immediately, your internal organs will be crushed. During this process, the pain would remain until the complete heart was crushed. Only then would the person die. That kind of suffering is like walking in hell. Just thinking about it makes me feel pitiful. Li Weiran slowly lowered his head. He was so close to Mu Yan that they could almost hear each other's breaths. Looking at the sweat beading on the girl's face due to the pain, and her lips that were starting to crack and bleed, Li Weiran's smile deepened. If you really can't take it anymore, Mu Yan can try begging me. I have the antidote on me. If he had heard Mayan's bitter pleading, he might have been soft-hearted and taken out. Swoosh! Before Li Weiran could finish his words, a sword light suddenly shot up from below and ruthlessly slashed across Li Weiran's face. On the young man's jade-white forehead, there was a vertical cut. Bright red blood slowly seeped out. Chapter 3144. The red silk that had been covering her eyes was also cut open by the saber, revealing the youth's long eyelashes, tightly closed eyes, and high nose bridge. The long eyelashes tremble slightly, slowly opening. However, before she can clearly see what those eyes look like, the red light flashes, and the red silk that had disappeared reappears, completely covering the youth's eyes and nose bridge. Mayan's heart thumps. A vague but shocking thought flashes through her mind. The youth who just lost the red silk gives her a stronger sense of familiarity. But, who does he look like? Why can't she remember no matter how hard she tries? If she can remove the red silk and take another look, maybe she will be able to remember. Her slender fingers caress the blood stain between her eyebrows. Li Weiran's voice is cold and low. Mayan, were you just playing with me? The girl in front of him has a calm expression, and her lips are normal. She is still carelessly gnawing on the roasted meat in her hands. She doesn't look like she was poisoned and on the verge of death. Then she looks at the little chick that was just on its last breath. At this time, it's giggling non-stop. From time to time, it even pulls its neck, making a painful appearance of being poisoned. Then it giggles and rolls into Mayan's arms. Giggle, Giguji, mommy, mommy. Isn't Huang Huang acting good? He. Is Huang Huang powerful? Mayan rubs its head, rewarding it with a piece of roasted meat. Then she looks up at Li Weiran, sneering, I already disdained to play with poison like rotting heart powder 2 years ago. Since you're so interested, why don't I keep you company? Almost as soon as Mayan's voice falls, Li Weiran feels a burning pain from the wound on his forehead. The blood that was originally oozing out gradually turns into a rancid black-red color. His internal organs seem to feel the pain of being turned upside down. The poison that Mayan used is similar to rotting heart powder, but it's far more powerful. Li Weiran's fair skin is gradually dyed with a frightening purple color. His body also trembles slightly from the pain of the poison's corrosion. Mayan gnaws on the fragrant roasted meat while appreciating his painful expression with great interest. But her eyes are also full of regret. What a pity. She was very clear that this little bit of poison would not be able to kill Li Weiran. She couldn't even see through the cultivation of this eccentric and treacherous man whose identity was unknown. If Li Weiran really wanted to kill him, it would be a piece of cake. But Mu Yan can clearly feel that this youngster doesn't have any clear killing intent towards her, but is full of malice. It was as if he had a stomach full of evil tricks and wanted to see him panicking and begging for mercy. Sure enough, after Li Weiran wiped away the black and red blood that flowed out of his forehead, he laughed softly. Although his eyes were covered, one could still see the incredulous expression on his face. How many years has it been since someone made me suffer a loss? This feeling is so refreshing. June Mayan, what kind of woman are you? I'm getting more and more interested in you. Mu Yan's expression is indifferent. She carelessly says, let's not talk about whether you're interested or not. Is your cooking only good at barbecuing? Eating too much barbecued meat would make one sick of it. Do you know how to make soup? Do you know how to cook? Go. Little Ing Huang excitedly agrees, drink soup, drink soup. Daddy's soup is the best. Li Weiran, he shows a bashful smile and warmly says, aren't you afraid that I will continue to poison the food? Chapter 31:45. Mu Yan raises her eyebrows, her peach blossom eyes are languid and disdainful. Go ahead and use the poison. If I'm poisoned to death after eating it, it's my loss. But the premise is that you have to guarantee that our 3 meals are delicious. How about it? Of course, don't blame me if your skills are inferior and you get killed instead. Even someone as perverted as Li Weiran fell silent for a moment. The atmosphere between the two was harmonious and friendly. Who would have thought that the topic they were talking about was how to poison each other? The long eyelashes covered by the red silk fluttered slightly. Even with the obstruction, Mu Yan can still feel the scorching and excited gaze that is cast on her. Her heart skipped a beat. She had suspected that Li Weiran wasn't blind at all. At this moment, his guess was completely confirmed. But if she wasn't blind, why did she cover her eyes with the red silk? Just as he was feeling doubtful, he heard the youth's deep and alluring voice, sure. I agree. Then, I'll have to trouble Mayan to give me some pointers. This is the ghost market. Listening to the noise of the people and smelling the messy stench, Mu Yan couldn't help but be a little absent-minded. Everything here gave her a distant sense of familiarity. In her previous life, she was sold into the ghost city's Wan Ren Ku by Gong Chinchu as confidant. Those gathered there are the lowest, most savage, and most sinister humans of the entire Yanwu continent. They could kill for a mouthful of food. They could also sell their bodies without hesitation in order to survive. The entire 10,000 cave was always filled with chaos, violence, and a suffocating rancid smell. Although the ghost market in front of them was not like the bloody law of the jungle like the Wan Ren Ku. After all, the ghost market allowed people to enter and leave at will, and once Wan Ren Ku was sent in, there was almost no possibility of escape. But the cruelty, brutality, and malice that grew out of despair were exactly the same as those in 10,000 cave. The ground of the ghost market was muddy. Occasionally, a few children in tattered clothes would scream and run past, splashing putrid muddy water on the ground. Wooden houses were built in a disorderly manner, forming several crisscrossing alleys. As long as there were gaps on both sides of the alleys, people could be seen setting up stalls or begging on the ground. Cries of pain could be heard from some of the wooden houses. There were also men and women dressed neatly in front of some wooden houses. They put on makeup, put on charming expressions, and shouted at the passers-by. Sir, come in and have a seat. We have a pair of beautiful sisters here, and we guarantee that you will be satisfied. Hold on, heroine. Look at how soft and tender this young man is. Moreover, he is very sturdy. You can play with him however you want. The moment Mu Yan and Li Weiran entered the ghost market, they attracted countless gazes. Of course, it's not Mu Yan who's attracting his attention. After staying in Mount Yunluo for more than 10 days, Mayan's appearance isn't much better than that of a savage beggar. His clothes were tattered, his hair was tangled, his face was covered in mud, and his body emitted a foul stench. It was exactly the same as the ghost market. Li Weiran was the complete opposite of her. The youth was dressed in a snow-white robe, and even the shoes on his feet were spotless. His black hair fluttered like clouds, like a waterfall of ink. The bright red satin covered his face, making his skin look even colder and as fair as jade. His thin lips were pink and seductive. The smooth and perfect curves extended from his temples to his chin, and then to his delicate collarbone. The youth's entire person was like a work of art carved out of white jade. Chapter 31:46. Beautiful, precious, and fragile. Completely incompatible with this messy and dirty ghost market. Hey, what's the price of this rabbit? As long as you name a price, I'll take it all. A man's rough voice comes to Mayan's ears. She turns around in surprise and finds a dark-skinned, fierce-looking man staring at Li Weiran with a fiery gaze. She can't help but drool from her mouth. Get lost. I've taken a fancy to this kid, none of you are allowed to fight with me. A thick and solid hand reaches over and pushes Mayan away, about to touch Li Weiran's face. Mayan takes a dangerous step back, only to find out that the one pushing her is an incomparably fat middle-aged woman. One must know that in the gravel hill, it's normal to be emaciated all year round without enough to eat. But this middle-aged woman is not only fat, her eyes are squeezed into slits. Moreover, her whole body is covered with gestures made of cloud bones. Even the vest on the outside was made of the skin of a cloud beast. Everyone knows at once that this middle-aged woman's background is definitely not simple. Thus, the people who were originally interested in Li Weiran all retreat in fear. The brawny man who spoke first is clearly unwilling and still wants to rush forward. But he's pulled back by his companion. Have you lost your mind? Do you know who this woman is? She's Zhang Guihong, the daughter of the mountain split sex outer sex steward. Do you still want to mingle in the gravel hill after offending her? Although the gravel hill only allows entry and not exit, it's isolated from the world. But every year, a large amount of trash would be thrown here from the floating island, and there would also be abandoned disabled people or criminals exiled here. Therefore, there must be a connection point between the gravel hill and the floating island. But the gravel hill is really too remote, and there's no profit to be made. Therefore, the sects and families with a bit of capital are all unwilling to come here. Therefore, the job of managing this connection point falls on the head of a small sect on the floating island, the Mountain Split sect. The people of the Mountain Split sect have special permission to enter and exit the gravel hill's boundary. Although they can't let the refugees out of the gravel hill. But they can open an outer sect in the gravel hill, and select the elite martial artists of the gravel hill to be the outer sect steward and disciples. These people specialize in receiving the trash from the floating island, purchasing cloud bones, and managing the refugees in the gravel hill. Naturally, they had great power. Chang Jia, who was killed by Mu Yan at the edge of Mount Yunluo, only had an uncle who was an outer disciple of the mountain-splitting sect, yet he dared to clamor that Mu Yan couldn't kill him. The fat middle-aged woman before him was the daughter of the mountain-split sex outer court manager. It was no wonder that no one dared to say a word even though she was so arrogant. Zhang Guihong's chubby hand was about to touch Li Weiran's face. Li Weiran dodged and hid behind Mu Yan. Mu Yan's face is filled with regret. She really wanted to see this little pervert being teased and bullied. Zhang Guihong doesn't know what Mayan is thinking. Seeing that Li Weiran was hiding behind her, her face darkened and she said gruffly, "You slut, are you trying to steal my man?" Mu Yan resolutely shakes her head, "No, I don't want to." "Take him away." "Ha ha ha ha." Zhang Guihong laughed wildly. "At least you have some self-awareness. Brat, did you hear that? Your previous master has already given you to me. Hurry up and come over. As long as you're obedient, I promise you'll have a good life." Chapter 3147. As she spoke, Zhang Guihong waved her hand. Someone immediately came up with a large piece of jerky. Zhang Guihong tossed the jerky in her hand into the air and arrogantly said, "Do you see that? As long as you come over now, this piece of jerky is yours. And if you serve me well, I guarantee that you'll be able to eat meat for every meal in the future." Slurp. The sound of countless people drooling could be heard. That was the precious meat of a cloud beast. Moreover, they could smell a salty aroma. Obviously, it was added with precious seasoning. At this moment, they suddenly envied this white-clothed youth. If they could sell their bodies in exchange for meat for every meal, they would be willing. Standing behind Zhang Guihong was a man dressed in silk and satin. He had a decent appearance and swallowed his saliva when he saw the piece of jerky. He looked at Li Weiran with red eyes full of jealousy. But he still said generously, "Hey, little blind man, did you hear that Hong Jia asked you to come over? Even if you can't see the jerky in Hong Jia's hand, you should be able to smell it, right? Hong Jia has never been so nice to any male pet before. Be obedient and let's serve Hong Jia comfortably. You won't be lacking in good times in the future." Mayan was trying to stifle her laughter to the point of internal injury. Who knew that in the next moment, she would hear Li Weiran say in a clear and melodious voice, "I don't want to go. As long as I can be with Mayan, even if I have to eat vegetables, I'm willing. To me, she's not my master. She's the person I care about the most right now. Mayan, cough, cough, cough. Go to hell. Would you die if you didn't drag me down with you? And the person I care about the most right now. Isn't it the person I care about the most right now?" Seeing Zhang Guihong looking at her aggressively, Mayan pushed the youth behind her forward without hesitation. Without the slightest hesitation, Mu Yan pushes the youth behind her forward. "Give me the jerky, this person is yours." Then it's decided. Zhang Guihong didn't even see the dirty girl's movements. She only felt a blur in front of her eyes and the jerky in her hand was snatched away. She was about to get angry when she smelled a faint fragrance. She opened her small eyes and saw that the jade-like blindfolded youth was already in front of her. Even if he couldn't see his eyes, it didn't affect his elegant bearing at all. That thin waist, those straight legs, that slender neck. Zhang Guihong swallows a mouthful of saliva. She has long thrown Mayan's offense to the back of her mind. "Little beauty, you also heard it just now, right? Your master doesn't want you anymore, so come with me obediently. I promise that you'll be as happy as a deity in a while, and you'll forget about your master in the blink of an eye." Li Weiran lowered his head and didn't say anything. She coldly snorted, the fat on her face trembling. "If you don't listen, today, no matter if it's you or your previous master, don't think about walking out of this ghost market alive." Li Weiran straightened his back slightly and finally said obediently, "I'll go with you." The crowd immediately burst into hisses. Some were sympathetic, some were envious, some were gloating, and some were pitying. Mayan hears the muffled sounds of discussion. "Look at how soft and tender this young man is. If he falls into Zhang Guihong's hands, he will be tormented miserably. Sigh, to think that his previous master was willing to let go of such a treasure. What can I do if I don't let go? Offending Zhang Guihong, does he not want to live anymore? There are only a few men that Zhang Guihong fancies who can come out unscathed. Some time ago, there was also a very beautiful young man. In order to treat his father's illness, he had no choice but to sell himself to Zhang Guihong. As a result, when he was thrown out by the servants of the Zhang household, he was already completely unrecognizable. Chapter 3148. Alas, I've sinned. Mayan looks at the youngster's straight back and tightly pursed lips, as if he was stubborn and lonely. She doesn't know why her heart feels like it's being pricked. Of course, she knows that Li Weiran, this little pervert, won't lose out. But looking at this youngster, she feels like she's looking at another shadow. That shadow, vague and distant. Even if she breaks her head, she can't figure it out. But even if it's just a vague association that she can't figure out, it still makes Mayan very unhappy. So unhappy that she wants to chop off Zhang Guihong's fingers that are touching Li Weiran's face. But in the end, Zhang Guihong only smiles insolently and doesn't insist on holding Li Weiran in her arms. Because Zhang Guihong has just bought goods from the ghost market, no matter how careful she is, her hands are still covered in mud. And the youngster in front of her is dressed as white as snow, his skin like jade, so pure and holy that people can't bear to tarnish him. Even Zhang Guihong felt pity for her. She laughed and said, "Little beauty, be obedient and come with me. When we arrive at the mansion, we'll take a bath together. Then, I'll accompany you to make love." Along with the laughter, the flesh on his face trembles and the oil on his forehead glistens. It's really disgusting. But Li Weiran seems to have accepted it. He doesn't say anything and obediently follows behind Zhang Guihong. But when he passes by Mayan, he suddenly turns his head and shows a bashful smile. He suddenly tilts his head, revealing a bashful smile. In a low voice that only Mu Yan can hear, he says, "Mu Yan, you've gone too far. What I hate the most is being abandoned by others. I didn't expect that after cooking for you for so many days, would be treated so ungrateful. Moreover, are you really willing to let me be defiled and humiliated by others?" Mayan rolls her eyes. "Big brother, that's enough. Are you addicted to acting?" She snorts coldly and uses her voice to say, "Haven't you been complaining about being bored these past few days? Now that I've given you this entertainment, are you satisfied?" Hee hee. Very satisfied. Mayan really understands me. So, in order to repay Mayan, I'll also prepare a big gift for you. Mayan's heart thumps. But without waiting for her to ask, Li Weiran has already left with Zhang Guihong. Mu Yan still doesn't dare to relax. Sure enough, not long after, she felt the energy in her storage ring fluctuate. Then, 7 or 8 cloud bones fell from her sleeves. The crowd that was about to disperse suddenly stopped in their tracks. Everyone looked at the 7 or 8 cloud bones with a burning gaze. Cloud bone. Is it Yinggu? It is indeed a cloud bone, and it is the most precious cloud spine bone of a cloud beast. Each cloud beast only gets a small piece. Who is this girl? With such a soft and tender kid by his side, he actually has so many cloud spine bones on him. 8 cloud spine bones means that you've killed at least 8 cloud beasts. Look at her frail and small appearance, how is that possible? Excited discussions, along with greedy and longing gazes, swarmed over from all directions. In the Shuzhen continent where Mu Yan used to live, most of the cultivators were very shrewd. Even if they wanted to embezzle other people's things, they would certainly scheme and find a dignified reason. But it was different for the people on the rocky hill. All of them were running around for survival, day and night. The only thought in their minds was to survive. How could they care about morality or shrewdness? Chapter 3149. As soon as they see the 8 cloud bones, they immediately rush over like hungry tigers pouncing on their prey. Mu Yan's fingers grasp the air, grabbing the cloud bones into her palm. Then, her figure flashes and she disappears. Hey, where did she go? That woman is very skilled. Damn, 8 cloud bones, if we can get one, our whole family won't have to starve for the next year. That stinking woman actually ran away. The crowd unwillingly disperse. Even if they know that Mu Yan's strength isn't simple, but in order to survive, in order to snatch resources, they will still risk their lives. But now that she's run away, these people don't show any unusual behavior other than cursing a few sentences. That's because this kind of robbery and failure is too normal for them. They simply don't have time to complain, and have no choice but to throw themselves into a new struggle to survive. In the corner of the alley, there's a short, thinly dressed teenager. Looking at the place where Mu Yan disappeared, he slowly bites his lips, his eyes revealing a burning light. After getting rid of the crowd, Mu Yan doesn't leave the ghost market. Instead, she makes a detour and swaggers in from another entrance. This time, Mu Yan didn't have the glaring presence of Li Weiran. She found an inn without a hitch and took a nice bath. There are inns in the ghost market. But compared to the inn that Mu Yen used to live in, this place can simply be described as a refugee cave. And the clean water that the inn can provide is also very little. In fact, there's an extreme lack of water in the gravel hill. Mu Yan has been in Mount Yunluo for so long, but she's only seen a muddy, semi-swampy lake. It's full of amphibious cloud beasts, and the water inside is dirty and smelly. She can't take a bath. And the amount of spiritual power that Mu Yan can use is very little. She can condense some water to eat and drink. But taking a bath is absolutely not enough. When the innkeeper first heard that Mu Yan wants water, he was very reluctant. Until Mu Yan takes out ordinary cloud bones and cloud beast skin, he immediately agrees with ecstasy. In his words, his attitude towards Mayan has changed from being careless at the beginning to one of extreme reverence. Mu Yan drives the innkeeper out, and with the pitiful water that she can condense, she washes the blood and mud off her body. For a moment, it's as if she's reborn. She couldn't imagine how they had survived those stinky, greasy days. Thankfully, Li Weiran and Little Chick didn't mind. Li Weiran. Mu Yan can't help but grit her teeth at the thought of the youth with the red silk covering his eyes. Squeak squeak squeak, the little chick rolled out of the space and crashed into Mu Yan's arms. Ao ao ao. G. Huang Huang loved Shengxiang's mother the most. Mayan strokes its head. How is the Tian Mo Chin space? Are Chi Huang and Little Phoenix alright? The environment of this rocky hill was unique. Her divine sense connection with the Tian Mo Chin space is almost completely severed. Therefore, she could only put Lian Yungu in an ordinary storage space. Guji Guji. Guji Guji. Brother Red Underpants was playing chess, ignoring Huang Huang. Little Ball was sleeping and Huang Huang was bored, so it came to find its mother. The little chick looked around. Squawk, 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 mummy mummy, where's Brother Blindfold? Huang Huang wanted to eat Brother Blindfolded's cooking. Mayan's hand on the little chick's head pauses. That scene that made her unhappy resurfaces in her mind. That Zhang mansion, it should have been demolished by him by now, right? Chapter 3150. Mayan mutters to herself as she puts her scattered hair into a man's bun. Soon, a handsome young man comes out. But Mayan's eyebrows are too charming. Even if she doesn't have any makeup on her face or jewelry on her head, she's still dazzling and captivating. Since she doesn't have any tools to change her appearance, Mayan has no choice but to use her bone hands to carve an ugly mask and put it on. Guji. Little Inghua tilts his head and looks at Mayan in confusion. He doesn't understand why his mother would use such an ugly mask to cover her beautiful face. But it doesn't matter. It's great that his mother has turned back into her fragrant self. But what about the blindfolded brother in white? Huang Huang is hungry and wants to eat delicious barbecue. Thus, little Inghua rubs against Mayan's palm and asks again. You're a chicken. It's fine if you don't eat bugs or grains, but why are you pickier than me? Mayan pokes little Inghua's head, making its round body sway. Do you really want to find that little pervert? Go. Barbecue. Delicious. Soup is even more delicious. Blindfolded brother is the best. Damn it, he was making her hungry. That's what you said. You're the one who told me to go find him. Little Inghua tilts his head. Ahem. Mayan coughs, forget it, I'll do a good deed that day. It wouldn't be good if this little pervert massacred his entire family. Zhang Guihong and her group quickly returned to her mansion after taking Li Weiran away. It's a courtyard with 4 entrances, all made of green bricks. It can't be compared to the richly ornamented palaces in the Shuzhen mainland. But there's already a mansion in the middle of the gravel hill. Zhang Guihong proudly shows off to Li Weiran. Now you know how wise of a choice it was to follow me. Li Weiran quietly sits on a wooden chair, slightly tilting his head to look out the window without saying a word. Even though this reaction is very rude. But the youngster's side profile is as perfect as a poem or a painting. The anger that Zhang Guihong was about to explode was dispelled unconsciously. She waves her hand. Prepare a bathtub for this lady. Beauty, let's go. I'll take you to a couple bath. As Zhang Guihong spoke, she stretched out her fat hand. However, Li Weiran didn't move. It was as if she didn't exist. Zhang Guihong's face darkened bit by bit. It seems that you still don't know your own identity and situation. He's just a boy toy. Don't be so shameless. Suddenly, she raised her hand and patted it. Men, let the new beauty see the consequences of resisting me, Zhang Guihong. Li Weiran finally retracted his gaze from the door. He waited with interest to see what Zhang Guihong wanted him to see. Not long after, the servants of the Zhang residence dragged a few naked people over. There were both men and women in this group. Every one of them had outstanding looks in the area of shattered rock. However, every single one of them was riddled with wounds and was in an extremely miserable state. Sister Hong, I know I was wrong. I'm willing to serve you. Please forgive me. Kill me. Kill me. I really can't take it anymore. When these people saw Zhang Guihong, they immediately cried and begged. Their expressions were indescribably humble and hopeless. Becoming a pet to serve an ugly and fat woman was equivalent to stepping on their dignity in the mud. Chapter 31:51. But these people were fighting to be the first to beg for this kind of humiliation and trampling. It was clear what kind of terrifying torture they had been through. Li Weiran quietly looked at these people who were begging for mercy. His lips unknowingly curled up. The scenery and people in the room were reflected in his eyes through the red silk, as if they were dyed in a layer of bloodthirsty red. How interesting! These lowly, ant-like people struggling to survive. What was the point of them living? He might as well free them. Suddenly, a figure jumped up from the ground and pounced towards Zhang Guihong. Vicious woman, I'll kill you. A cold light flashed and the sharp blade was about to pierce into Zhang Guihong's chest. Zhang Guihong lifted her leg and kicked. Crack! The sound of bones breaking rang out. The figure fell to the ground and spat out a mouthful of blood, unable to get up again. But even so, this woman still stared at Zhang Guihong fiercely, her eyes filled with intense hatred. Yes, this was a woman. Moreover, it was a woman with snow-white skin and an outstanding appearance. Zhang Guihong searched for beauties everywhere. Not only handsome men, but even beautiful women were also targets for her to defile. The woman was already on her last breath, but she still gritted her teeth and said, Zhang Guihong, you vicious woman, in order to take me by force, you didn't even let my husband and infant son go. Zhang Guihong, you will get what you deserve. You will definitely get what you deserve. Zhang Guihong's face darkened as she stepped forward and ruthlessly stepped on the woman's face. The woman immediately spat out a mouthful of blood and fainted. Shameless slut, it's your honor that I like you. Do you want to go to hell to reunite with your husband and son? Hee, I won't let you get what you want. You dare to resist me, just wait to be tortured to death in the mansion. Ha ha ha. Zhang Guihong laughed so hard that the flesh on her face was trembling. She turned to look at Li Weiran, hoping to see the noble and pure youth reveal a panicked and pleading expression. But Zhang Guihong was disappointed. The youth in front of her was still calm and obedient. His lips even curled up into a faint smile, without a hint of fear. Zhang Guihong frowned unhappily. Little blind, don't be so ungrateful. It was the male pet behind Zhang Guihong who was used to bootlicking. Do you know that these people had a good ending? Those who were truly despised by Sister Hong were all given to the servants of the Zhang residence. Look at your soft and tender skin, what kind of torture will you suffer when the time comes? Have you thought about it clearly? Li Weiran slowly stood up. Hee, that's right, right? As long as you listen to me, I won't mistreat you. His thin lips moved, and the young man's clear and pleasant voice rang out. There was once a person who told me to obediently wait for her, and that she would come back to pick me up. But in the end, she didn't come back. So in this life, what I hate the most is... His voice paused, and Li Weiran tilted his head in confusion. Strange, why would you remember something from so long ago? These are the last things I want to remember. He slowly turned his head and looked at Zhang Guihong and his male pet. The smile on his face became brighter and brighter. Every time I think about it, I will tremble in fear, and also hate to the point of going crazy. Zhang Guihong felt a strange chill run down her spine. Chapter 3152. Zhang Guihong inexplicably feels a chill all over her body, shivering. It's like a poisonous snake has suddenly climbed up her back, wrapping around her neck, able to take her life at any time. But she quickly shakes her head, throwing away that inexplicable fear. Her plump hands reach towards Li Weiran's face, her mouth saying, "Little beauty, are you scared? Don't be afraid, come into my arms." The scarlet light is faintly discernible behind the red silk. The moment it's about to explode, suddenly, a sword light descends from the sky. The wretched expression on Zhang Guihong's face has yet to recede. A line of blood slowly appears from the top of her head, gradually spreading to her face, neck, and body. Bang! There's a loud noise. Boiling hot blood sprays out, splashing all over Li Weiran's face and body. The entire courtyard falls into a deathly silence. Everyone's eyes slowly fell on the front. After Zhang Guihong's body split in half, the figure of a masked girl appears. This person is wearing men's clothing and has a man's bun. But her figure is slim and slender, and her grace is outstanding. The translucent sword in her hand flickers, contrasting against her exquisite skin that is like white porcelain and beautiful jade. Only that face is mostly covered by an extremely ugly mask. Even so, it can be seen that this is definitely a woman, and an exceptionally beautiful girl at that. But at this moment, this beautiful girl has killed Zhang Guihong, killing the daughter of the mountain-splitting sex outer sex steward. The first to react is Zhang Guihong's male pet, his face full of horror. Kill. Murder. She killed Hong Jia. The hysterical shout is sharp and shrill, like a sharp object is poking into the ear. Mu Yan frowns, waving her hand, and a sword light slashes out. The male pet softly fell to the ground. Quickly catch her. The young lady has been killed. If we can't catch the murderer, Master will never let us off. Someone come. Catch the assassin. Zhang Guihong's subordinates roar, and a tide of people immediately rushes over from all directions. However, these people's fighting strength can't even compare to the lowest level cloud beast. How could Mu Yan take it to heart? Therefore, it only took her a quarter of an hour to get rid of these small fries. Not a single one of them could withstand a single move from her. In the beginning, Mu Yan actually held back. Other than Zhang Guihong, who was directly beheaded, the rest of the Zhang residence's servants were knocked unconscious with the back of their blades. Until she saw the men and women who were captured and tortured by Zhang Guihong. The killing intent in his eyes finally materialized into ice. even in a world like Gravel Hill where the strong preyed on the weak. This kind of trash doesn't deserve to be called human. Floating like a dream, resounded in the entire Zhang mansion. Even though she could only use a small amount of spiritual power now, it was still a piece of cake for her to control these mortals who had no cultivation. After a while, everyone in the residence, except for Li Weiran, entered Dreamland. Those who were captured and humiliated by Zhang Guihong found redemption in the dream, and their injuries gradually healed. As for the servants of the Zhang mansion, those minions who helped Zhang Guihong in her evil deeds, they were now trapped in an endless nightmare. They would be tortured in nightmares and lose their lifespan. When they woke up, even if they didn't die of old age, their hair would be white, and it would be hard for them to live again. Mu Yan puts away her zither and turns to leave. Li Weiran's calm voice comes from behind. Jun Mu Yan, what are you doing here? Chapter 3153. Mu Yan turns to look at the youth. When she saw that his head and face were covered in blood, she couldn't help but curl up the corners of her mouth. He was no longer as holy and perfect as he usually was. What are you doing here? Of course I'm here to help the people get rid of the scourge. He glanced at the people who were tortured by Zhang Guihong, especially the woman who was on the verge of death. Mu Yan crouches down and stuffs a pill into her mouth. Then, he stood up and said, I'll kill this kind of scum. Is there a problem? With that, she didn't wait for Li Weiran's response and turned to leave. However, as soon as he stepped out of the Zhang mansion, the people behind him followed him. Li Weiran's voice carried a hint of laughter. Jun Mayan, admit it. You just can't bear to see me being defiled. Mu Yan rolls her eyes. You pervert, it's good enough that you don't defile people. I'm still worried that you'll be defiled. Do you think I'm an idiot? Worry leads to confusion. Maybe you've fallen for me. Mu Yan stops and turns to stare at him. At this time, the girl had already washed away the dirt on her face and body, restoring her original appearance. Even an ugly mask couldn't hide his peerless elegance. Li Weiran's breathing became chaotic for a moment. But it was only for a moment before his lips curled into a faint smile. What are you looking at me for? Could it be that Mayan has really fallen for me? Even if the red silk covered her face and she didn't have the most captivating pair of eyes, she still appeared so charming and alluring. However, Mu Yan's next sentence, his seductive expression froze. Let's see how thick your skin is. You're not even blushing when you say such sentimental words. Were you the reincarnation of a daffodil in your past life? With that, Mayan throws him a mocking look, then turns around and walks away. But very quickly, Li Weiran caught up. What is a daffodil? Why do you say that I'm the reincarnation of Narcissus? Narcissism represented narcissism. This is what Mu Yan heard from Bai Xia. Of course, Li Weiran didn't know. Mu Yan is also not interested in explaining to him. Thus, this fellow had repeated it 800 times in her ears along the way. You said daffodils are flowers. Why have I never seen this flower before? There are flowers in the world that I haven't seen. That's impossible. I've seen all the flowers in the world. Why don't you show me the narcissus? Mu Yan couldn't take it anymore. Li Weiran, that's enough. She had never seen a daffodil before, so where was she going to get one? Li Weiran said calmly, but I'm really curious. There is no flower in the world that I have not seen. Mu Yan, what exactly is this daffodil you're talking about? I really want to see it. Pausing for a moment, the young man leaned forward slightly and said in a cold and gloomy voice, I'm a person who will definitely get what I want. If I can't get it, I'll stop at nothing and stop at nothing. Mu Yan, are you afraid? Mu Yan coldly glances at him and sneers, you said that there's no flower in this world that you haven't seen. Of course. Li Weiran said confidently, there are records of all the strange flowers in the world. Whether it's the Yanwu continent, the Shushan continent, the Shushan continent, or even the floating island, as long as it's a flower recorded in the ancient books, I've definitely seen it. Not only had he seen it, he had even planted it himself. Except, Li Weiran's voice just fell when he saw Mu Yan's face slightly pale. Fine beads of sweat seeped out from her forehead. Then, a jade box slowly appeared in her palm. Chapter 3154. On top of the jade box, there was a little yellow chick with its head tilted to one side, its ahogue twitching as it dozed off. Feeling the cold wind outside, the little chick opened its eyes. Seeing Li Weiran in front of it, it immediately began to squawk. Brother Blindfold, Huang Huang is hungry. I want some roast meat. I want to drink soup. Li Weiran didn't understand the little chick's words, but he vaguely felt that this little chick wasn't simple. However, his attention wasn't on the little chick, but the jade box in Mu Yan's hand. He doesn't understand why Mayan would suddenly take out a jade box. Could it be that the daffodil she mentioned was inside? You said you've seen all the flowers in the world. Mu Yan said lightly, then have you seen this dark cloud's spirit flower before? The pupils of the eyes behind the red silk suddenly shrank. Li Weiran's entire body stiffened. His hands that were originally hanging by his side unconsciously clenched into fists. At this moment, he almost wanted to tear off the red silk covering his eyes and take a closer look. Then, he saw her slender fingers slowly open the jade box in front of him. Inside the jade box, there was a translucent flower that emitted a faint pink and icy blue light, quietly lying inside. Because the lid of the box was lifted, the foul air from the outside came in. The delicate petals trembled as if they would melt at any moment. But Mu Yan simply gathers spiritual power on her fingertips and wraps it up. The flower immediately regained her calm and demure demeanor. Even the pink stamen in the center gently swayed, rubbing against Mayan's fingers, seemingly incomparably intimate. Mayan also hooks her finger and touches the stamen, then closes the jade box. The seed of the dark cloud spirit flower was given to her by Di Mingju on the Yanwu continent a long, long time ago. At that time, Di Mingju tricked her into planting the dark cloud's spirit flower in 7 days. In fact, his main purpose was to keep her in the mansion and cultivate feelings for her. As for whether the dark cloud spirit flower could really be grown by Mayan, even Di Mingju had never thought about it. This was because this kind of dark cloud spirit flower wasn't precious or useful to the cultivators of the cultivation continent. Its only use was to refine pills that could help those without spiritual roots to form their spiritual meridians. But it was precisely this worthless dark cloud spirit flower that no one had managed to grow in thousands of years. The dark cloud spirit flower was also known as the 7 days flower. It only took 7 days for the seeds to germinate, bloom, and wilt. However, no matter how powerful a spirit plant master was, they would at most last until the 5th day of planting the dark cloud's spirit flower. Previously, Di Mingju gave Mayan 7 seeds. Mu Yan also managed to grow 4 flowers with great difficulty, but they were all refined into pills. But Mayan really likes this dark cloud's spirit flower. Therefore, after entering the cultivation world, he tried to raise another one. This time, she succeeded again, and she finally knew why the dark cloud spirit flower was so hard to raise. Because the dark cloud spirit flower was simply too pure. It couldn't be corroded by any impure energy. No matter how pure a person's spirit root was, it was impossible for their body to be free of impurities. Only Mayan's stainless body, her unique moon spiritual root, coupled with her Shin musician skills, can raise this delicate 7 days flower. Mu Yan raised her head to look at Li Weiran, who was completely stiff. She curled her lips and thought to herself, little guy, you dare to fight with me?" He smiled and said, "You've never seen this dark cloud's spirit flower before, right? That's why, in this world, there's always someone better, there's always someone better. You don't know what's so rare about a daffodil." Saying that, she closed the jade box. But before she could move, she saw Li Weiran suddenly pouncing over. His target was the dark cloud's spirit flower in her hand. Chapter 3155. Mu Yan's eyes were sharp and her hands were fast. She quickly dodged it and managed to prevent the jade box from falling. She couldn't help but be angry. "Li Weiran, what are you doing? Is this really a dark cloud's spirit flower?" Li Weiran's voice was a little hoarse. "Let me take another look. I don't believe that anyone in this world can grow a dark cloud's spirit flower." Mu Yan sneered and put the dark cloud's spirit flower into her storage space. "Wait." Li Weiran grabbed her sleeve. "Can you give me this dark cloud's spirit flower? No matter what reward you want, as long as you give me this dark cloud's spirit flower, I'm willing to pay." Mu Yan then realized that Li Weiran's expression wasn't quite right. His face was excessively pale. His hands, which were gripping his sleeves, were trembling slightly. The cold sweat in his palms had soaked his clothes, forming a puddle of water. Mu Yan looked at him suspiciously. "Is the dark cloud's spirit flower important to you? This thing has no use other than to help mortals reconstruct their spiritual veins. Your cultivation is much higher than mine now. What do you want this for? This has nothing to do with you." Li Weiran clenched his fists. Even with his eyes covered, one could see his twisted expression. "Are you going to give me the dark cloud's spirit flower or not?" Mu Yan sneered and crossed her arms. "What? You want to threaten me again? Believe it or not, even if you kill me, you won't get the dark cloud's spirit flower." The murderous aura around her suddenly overflowed. A bone-chilling wind swirled in the air, curling her clothes and hair. Mu Yan was on guard, the 7 absolute swords faintly discernible in her palm. In the next moment, Li Weiran retracted all his murderous aura and revealed a pitiful expression. "The dark cloud spirit flower is really important to me. Mu Yan, let me take another look." "Just one look, okay." Mu Yan's personality had always been amenable to coaxing but not coercion. When Li Weiran threatened her just now, she would rather fight to the death. But now that Li Weiran revealed such a pitiful and pleading expression, even though she knew that this guy was wearing a mask, her heart still softened. Forget it. Seeing that this guy had been cooking for her and Huang for so many days. In the end, Mu Yan opens the jade box again. The flower in the box seemed to be made of ice crystals and was dyed with the pure blue of the sky, adorned with delicate pink stamens. At this time, under the nourishment of Mayan's spiritual power, it exudes a lustrous jade-like luster. It's so beautiful that it simply doesn't seem like a mortal object. Mayan sees Li Weiran staring blankly at the dark cloud spirit flower in the jade box. 2 lines of clear tears fall from his eyes. For a moment, they were dumbfounded. Holy shit! Li Weiran, this little pervert, actually cried. It was just a flower, why was he crying? After a long while, Mu Yan dryly says, "It's not that I'm stingy and unwilling to give you the flower, it's just that this dark cloud spirit flower originally only has a lifespan of 7 days. It needs to be nourished by my spiritual power every day in order to survive. Even if you manage to get past it, if the dark cloud spirit flower doesn't like your spiritual energy, it will quickly wither." Li Weiran suddenly reached out his hand and touched the stamen of the dark cloud's spiritual flower with his fingertip. A faint red spiritual energy slowly appeared. Damn! Mayan curses, do you want to kill it? This brat was actually pouring spirit energy into the dark cloud's spirit flower. To the dark cloud's spirit flower, the impure spiritual energy wasn't nourishment, but a talisman of death. Just like that time in the Yenwu continent, when Shi Lanling's maid touched it and caused it to die. But in the next moment, something miraculous happened. The dark cloud's spirit flower actually didn't die. Chapter 3156. Not only did it not die, but the stamen even reddened a little. As for this delicate and picky little flower, although she doesn't have the same desire and intimacy towards Li Weiran's touch as she does towards Mu Yan, she doesn't reject it either. In this kind of situation, ever since Mu Yan raised the fifth dark cloud spirit flower, he had only encountered two exceptions. One is Di Mingju. One was Little Treasure. Only when the two of them touched the dark cloud's spirit flower would it not be polluted and wither. And now, there was another Li Weiran. How could this be? What's so special about this Li Weiran? Just as he was feeling bewildered, he saw Li Weiran raise his head. His burning gaze of anticipation could be felt even through the red silk. You said it's not that you're stingy, but that you're afraid the dark cloud's spirit flower will wither. But you can't see it now, so can you sell the dark cloud's spirit flower to me? Mayan's heart is stifled for a moment. Gritting her teeth, she says, "What do you want the dark cloud's spirit flower for?" Li Weiran was silent for a moment before he slowly said, "Nothing much, I just want it." He had yearned for it for hundreds of years, and he had also tried for hundreds of years. Day and night, he had yearned for this flower that was already useless to him. Mayan slaps the jade box shut and puts it back into the storage ring without hesitation. She throws two words at Li Weiran, "Not giving." Why? Since you're useless, why should I give it to you? Is it a waste? It's useless even if you keep it. Can't I just like to raise it to look good? June Mayan, is there such a heartless woman like you? Scram! Is there a man as unreasonable as you? The two of them bickered all the way back to the ghost market. Of course, this time, he doesn't choose to enter from the entrance where he met Zhang Guihong. Instead, he enters from the west gate, which is very close to the inn that Mayan has booked. According to the Guo brothers, other than the trading of food, weapons, and flesh, there were also many places to trade information. Right now, Mayan's most urgent task is to leave the gravel hill. Here, 90% of her spiritual power is sealed. She can't use the Tian Mo Qin at will, and her connection with seven brilliants in the space is almost completely cut off. Previously, when she took out a jade box containing the dark cloud's spirit flower from the Tian Mo Qin space, it took a Herculean effort. Most importantly, the barrier and magnetic field around the rocky mound were extremely strange. The void spirit ring on her hand can communicate with Di Mingju's soul. It was as if it had been sealed. Di Mingju still doesn't know that she has come to the floating island. However, as long as he had the void spirit ring, he would be able to sense his location. Now that the void spirit ring has lost its effectiveness, Di Mingju and Xiao Bao will know that he's missing. How worried should they be? Therefore, she had to find a way to leave the gravel hill as soon as possible. Leave the rocky hill. Upon hearing her question, Lai Lao San, who sold information, was shocked at first, then laughed out loud. Are you dreaming? Haven't you heard that for thousands of years, crushed rock has only allowed entry and no exit? Even the spirit masters of the mountain-splitting sect who had come to punish the sinners could only stay here for a few hours at most. Otherwise, it was very possible that they would never be able to leave. As for us, we don't have the mark of a beast soul on us. As long as we get close to the boundary of the rocky hill, we will be completely crushed. He was born a piece of trash in crushed rock hill, so he will be a piece of trash for the rest of his life. In the past, it's not like there weren't descendants of foreign spirit masters like you who wanted to break through the barrier and leave this place. But in the end, all of them ended up with their heads separated from their bodies. I advise you to give up on this idea. Chapter 3157. Mu Yen frowned, deep in thought. Finally, she took out a huge cloud bone and placed it in front of Lai Lai. Where is the nearest boundary? Seeing the cloud bone, Lai Lai's eyes brightened. Hearing Mu Yan's words, he sneered, "You still don't want to give up? Don't blame me for not reminding you that you don't have a beast soul imprint on you. If you get within 100 meters of the boundary, you'll die. Don't think that you'll be safe just by going there." Mu Yen said faintly, "You don't have to worry about that. You just need to give me the information I want." In the end, Lai Lai pointed Mu Yen in a direction and sent her away like she was an idiot. "Mu Yen, you want to leave the gravel hill?" Mu Yan's speed was extremely fast. Although she couldn't fly on her sword in this gravel hill, she could use her qigong to move as fast as lightning. However, Li Weiran was able to easily keep up with her footsteps. He could even talk to her calmly. Mu Yen turned back to look at the youth. This time, Li Weiran finally changed out of his white robe, which was completely out of place in the entire rocky hill. Of course, the most important reason was that his white robe was already soaked in blood to the point that it was unpresentable. So even though his appearance was still eye-catching, with the red silk covering his eyes, he didn't attract the attention of the crowd. She looked at Li Weiran and asked, "If I give you the dark cloud spirit flower, can you help me leave the gravel hill?" Li Weiran was stunned by the question. It seemed like he really thought about it. After a long time, the corner of his mouth slowly curled up, revealing a meaningful smile. "I don't think so." His expression was bashful, his voice gentle and pleasant. "Although I like the dark cloud spirit flower, I feel that Mu Yen is more attractive to me now. It's only in the gravel hill that I can be with you day and night without being disturbed. If we go out, Mu Yen will be snatched away by others. How can I bear to? So, let's stay in the gravel hill for a while longer, okay?" Mu Yen directly sent him a word, "Scram." If this little pervert could spit out one truth out of 10 sentences, she would write Jun Mu Yan's name backwards. Looking at the back view of the girl who suddenly sped away, Li Weiran laughed softly. Stroking her pale pink lips with her fingers, she whispers like a lover, "The dark cloud spirit flower, there's actually someone in this world who can grow the dark cloud spirit flower. Hee, Jun Mayan, I'm obviously telling the truth. Why won't you believe me?" "I see." In front of the light gray smoke, Mu Yen reaches out to touch it and frowns. "This is really a bit difficult." Mu Yen already knows the reason why Lai Lao San said that one's head would be separated from their body if they got close to the barrier. This was because within 100 meters of the gravel hill's boundary, there were densely packed small offensive formations. Once they got close, countless vortexes of air blades would appear around the formation, strangling them to death. Only those who carried a special identification would be able to avoid the calamity. But this kind of formation was certainly not a problem for Mu Yen. She easily arrived in front of the barrier, which was the thick fog in front of her. However, that was all. The appearance of the gravel hill barrier is like a thick fog, but in fact, Mu Yen can't even walk in. When her fingers touch it, it feels like a ball of cotton. Using a sword to chop it, the 7 absolute swords would be like chopping a ball of cotton. It would either sink in or bounce back. Mu Yen doesn't know what kind of formation this is, but under the cover of her divine sense, she has some ideas on how to break this barrier. But the problem is, even if she knows how to break it, even a clever housewife can't cook without rice. Using the Shin musician's skill, star curtain opening, with her current spiritual power, she probably can't even hold on for a quarter of an hour. And a quarter of an hour is obviously not enough to break the formation. Refining a formation plate, using a formation to break the formation. Chapter 3158. Mu Yan doesn't know what kind of array this is, but under the cover of her divine sense, she has some ideas on how to break this barrier. But the problem is, even if she knows how to break it, even a clever housewife can't cook without rice. If she uses the Shin musician skill, Starry Sky Curtain, with her current spiritual power, she probably won't even be able to last a quarter of an hour. And a quarter of an hour is obviously not enough to break the array. Refining an array plate, using an array to break the array. This method is not impossible, but the gravel hill is really too barren. The materials that she wants will probably be very difficult to gather. Mu Yan, don't worry, come over and eat something first. Li Weiran's voice comes over. Mu Yan turns to look and is instantly speechless. She sees that Li Weiran has already prepared 7 to 8 dishes that look and smell good. The bottom is covered with white cushions, placed on the ground that is piled with bones and skeletons. And that disappointing stupid chicken of hers has already pounced on the pile of food, gorging on it. It has long forgotten whose spiritual pet it is, whose stupid son it is. As it eats, it keeps cooing non-stop. Mommy, mommy, it's delicious. Brother blindfolded is the best, as good as daddy, come and eat too. Mu Yan almost rolls her eyes. I won't be surprised if you get poisoned to death one day, you idiot. And because people often break in near this barrier, the ground is littered with skeletons. To think that one person and one chicken can still eat it. Li Weiran seems to have seen through Mu Yan's thoughts. He smiles and raises his hand lightly. In a split second, the mountain of skeletons and rotting graveyard in front of her turns into a beautiful green field with butterflies dancing in the air. Even Mu Yan was startled by this move. She attentively looks at the blindfolded youth in front of her. She has always known that his cultivation is very high. But she didn't expect it to be this high. The great illusionary realm, turning illusions into reality, the fake can be passed off as the real. After she broke through to the tribulation stage, she can use the Shin musician skill, Realm of Stars, to do it. But it is only for a short moment, and more or less there are traces of falsehood. But this illusion created by Li Weiran is almost no different from the real thing. Moreover, looking at how he was doing it with ease, it was obvious that creating such an illusion was a piece of cake. To be able to do this, his domain had to be at least at the 7th rank. Are you still not satisfied after doing so much? Li Weiran saw that she was still not coming over and seemed to be in a difficult position. Do you really want me to kiss you before you're willing to eat? In that case, I don't mind selling my beauty. Mayan slaps away the people who come over, and simply walks over to gorge herself on the food. As he ate, he wondered why this little pervert was so attentive today. He didn't know what kind of poison he had put in the food. However, even after the meal was over, she did not notice anything strange about the food. This made Mu Yan a little self-doubtful. You didn't poison it. Li Weiran sighed. Every time, Mu Yan will be able to solve it. It's not interesting at all. Therefore, I intend to use another method. For example, let you fall in love with someone else, abandon Di Mingju, and fall in love with me. Or, I'll turn you into a puppet, making you unable to escape. No matter which one it was, I couldn't suppress my excitement, but I couldn't choose. The youth in front of her clearly has a gentle and bashful expression, and his smile is as clear as crystal. But Mu Yan shudders for no reason at all. Damn it, damn pervert. Wait until we get out of the rocky hill, I must get rid of him. If I still can't get rid of him, I'll summon Di Mingju to hammer him to death. Chapter 3159. Gravel Hill, Zhang Mansion. Who killed my baby daughter? Looking at the messy mansion and Zhang Guihong's corpse that had been cut in half, Zhang Yekuan seethes with anger. He ruthlessly smashes the head of his old subordinate with a punch. Trash. A bunch of useless trash. They actually let someone kill my Hong under their eyes. Kill this group of trash for me, don't leave a single one alive. The veins on Zhang Yekuan's forehead bulge, the fat on his oily face trembles violently, and his eyes, which have been squeezed into slits, reveal a monstrous killing intent. To be able to behave atrociously in my Zhang mansion, and also easily kill Hong and swagger away, these two villains are certainly not natives of Gravel Hill. Insignificant criminals that were thrown in by the floating island actually dare to be so arrogant. So vicious. Someone, pass down my order. Investigate all the new refugees in Gravel Hill this month. If you find anything suspicious, immediately arrest them. Behind him, the outer disciples wearing mountain split sex attire promptly bow and obey. Suddenly, a middle-aged man comes forward and respectfully says, "Steward Zhang, your words have reminded this disciple of something. 15 days ago, my nephew and his companions entered Mount Yunluo to hunt the magnificent beast, but they all died inside. The wounds on their bodies are also sword wounds, exactly the same as the ones on Mrs. body." Zhang Yekuan suddenly turns around. "Chang Hao, is what you said true?" "It's absolutely true. This disciple has been tracking down the murderer of my nephew these days. This disciple is absolutely not mistaken about those sword wounds." Zhang Yekuan grits his teeth and says, "Then investigate Mount Yunluo as well. Bring me all the people who entered and left Mount Yunluo 15 days ago. Also, go to the ghost market and secretly issue a bounty. Whoever can provide information on these two villains will be rewarded with a month's worth of rations. Whoever can bring these two villains to Mountain Split sect will be rewarded with a year's worth of rations. Daring to kill my daughter and destroy my mansion, I will make you beg for death." Mayan once again returns to the ghost market. However, she didn't expect that she would be targeted by a thief before she could find the materials needed to break the array. Mu Yan's character has always been that if people don't offend me, I won't offend them. If people offend me, I'll teach them a good lesson. However, she looked at the little boy who had fallen to the ground and was looking at her with a face full of fear. He really couldn't bear to teach him a lesson. The little boy looked to be no more than 6 or 7 years old, and he was so skinny that he looked like a bag of bones. When she was caught stealing, she couldn't even say a word to beg for mercy. Tears silently flowed down from her eyes. His body naturally curls up into a ball, as if waiting for Mayan to beat him up to vent her anger. Li Weiran said excitedly, "Mu Yan, how do you want to deal with this thief? Steam, boil or fry him? By the way, I also know a kind of torture called grooming, which is to use a red-hot iron comb." The little body that was curled up on the ground trembled violently. Finally, he couldn't help but grab the hem of Mayan's clothes, and let out a low, plaintive cry for mercy. I'm sorry, I was wrong. Big sister, I beg you to spare me. I didn't want to, but my mother is sick. She has been hungry for several days. I don't have any way, woo-woo." The deliberately suppressed sobbing sound was so tear-inducing. However, in the ghost market, this kind of desolate and sorrowful scene was nothing more than a common sight. The people coming and going basically wouldn't even give it a glance. Chapter 3160. Mu Yan crouches down, grabbing the boy's collar and lifting him up. "Where is your mother?" The boy shows a frightened expression. "Big sister, I was wrong, I was really wrong. You can punish me, but I beg you, don't hurt my mother, okay? Big sister, I beg you." Tears like a broken string of beads patter down, washing away the dirt on the boy's face. Mu Yan discovers that the little boy's skin is very white, and his appearance is exceptionally delicate and cute. He seems to be out of place with the other children in the ghost market. She lightly says, "I'm a doctor, maybe I can cure your mother's illness. But if you're not willing, then forget it." The little boy is obviously stunned, forgetting to cry for a moment. Mu Yan has already put him down, turning to leave. The little boy suddenly comes to his senses, rushing over to hug her leg. I'm willing, big sister, no, doctor, please treat my mother. We're too poor, we don't have the money to treat my mother's illness. It must be the heavens taking pity on me and my mother, that's why I met you, doctor. Woohoo, your great kindness, the little monkey, will remember it for a lifetime. As long as you cure my mother, I will serve you like an ox or a horse. Yes, this delicate and pretty little boy has a very casual name, Little Monkey. He was born and raised in the ghost market. For as long as he can remember, there was only his mother by his side. As for his father, the little monkey has never seen him, let alone know who his father is. According to the little monkey, his mother really has it hard. In addition to taking care of him, she also has to take care of a group of sick relatives. A few days ago, she finally collapsed from exhaustion. The little monkey went to the ghost market to find a doctor. However, even after spending all of the family's savings, he still couldn't cure her. Now that his mother is on the verge of death, the little monkey is also about to starve to death. In desperation, he had to come out to steal. Listening to the little monkey's low and not deliberately sad narration. Lying on Mu Yan's shoulder, the little chick sobs, very touched. Goo, in this world, only a mother is good. A child with a mother is like a treasure, a child without a mother is like a blade of grass. Mom, this little brother is too pitiful, can you save his mother? Let him be as happy as Huang. The corner of Mu Yan's mouth twitches. This stupid chicken had matured quite a bit compared to when it had just hatched. Now, they could even understand simple stories. Most importantly, she was especially sentimental. She had no resistance to those melodramatic stories and grudges. Every time, he would pester the little phoenix to read it to him, and then he would burst into tears. Mu Yan, you wouldn't be so stupid as to repay evil with good, right? Li Weiran's laughing voice sounded in her ears. Mu Yan turns her head to look. She felt that even if her eyes were covered with red silk, she could still see the mocking expression on his face. As a result, Mu Yan gave him 4 words, I'm a senior minister. The little monkey looked at Li Weiran timidly and carefully grabbed the corner of Mu Yan's clothes. It was obvious that in this short period of time, he was already very dependent on Mu Yan. Li Weiran looked at this scene and laughed softly. Then, he stroked the red silk on the bridge of his nose and slowly followed. The smile on his face was so cold and evil. The ghost market actually occupied a very large area. The little monkey took Mu Yan and the others through the crisscrossing alleys for a while before they arrived at the little monkey's house. Chapter 3161. That is, if that dilapidated building with almost no roof tiles can be considered as a home. Mu Yan follows the little monkey into the house. A damp and moldy smell hits her nose. Then, she sees a pale woman lying on the bed. This woman is really a beauty. Her snow-white hair and curly eyebrows, even though she is already old, it can't hide her charming charm. But at this moment, the beauty is also very haggard. In addition to her pale complexion, her chapped lips are blue and purple. Moreover, there are festering scars on her exposed neck and arms. Most of her original beauty has been destroyed. Mu Yan frowns and walks forward, holding the woman's hand. The more she feels the pulse, the tighter her brows furrow. At this time, the little monkey comes over with 2 bowls of water, one of which is carefully given to Li Weiran. Li Weiran's mouth hooks up into a faint smile. He actually takes the water and drinks it in one gulp. The little monkey immediately shows a happy smile. Then he brings the other bowl of water to Mu Yan. Looking at Mu Yan's tightly knitted brows, his little face shows a sad expression. Big sister, you don't have to feel embarrassed. All the doctors said that my mother's illness can't be cured. I'm already very grateful that you're willing to see her. Big sister, drink some water. Mu Yan lets go of the unconscious woman's hand, takes the broken bowl and slowly takes a sip. The water that enters her mouth has a salty smell. But water resources in the Ghost Fair have always been scarce. Even this kind of water with a bad taste is already a treasure. Mu Yan sips the water while observing the scene in the house. There is a broken wooden door on the west side, slightly blown open by the wind. She can see several figures lying on the ground inside. The little monkey whispers, "Big sister, I told you before, these are my mother's relatives. They have been sick for many years, and it has always been my mother who took care of them." Bang! The porcelain bowl in Mu Yan's hand suddenly falls to the ground, shattering into pieces. Her face is also dyed with a layer of paleness. Her body seems to be imprisoned, unable to move. And in front of her is the little monkey, who just had a sad and timid expression. He slowly opens his mouth, revealing his snow-white teeth. "Big sister, what's wrong with you? Are you unable to move?" Mu Yan's voice was slightly hoarse as she asked, "Did you drug the water?" "Ha ha ha, you finally found out. But it's too late." Little monkey looked at Mu Yan, then at Li Weiran, who was leaning against the wall with a faint smile. His childish face was filled with a smile that did not match his age. "I like idiots like you who just came from the outside the most. You don't even know the rules of survival in Shattered Rock. Just cry a little and she'll take the bait. Big sister, I beg you to spare me. My mother is sick, I had no choice but to steal things." He imitated the way he cried and begged Mu Yan, and then he laughed wildly, "Ha ha ha. If I cry like this for a while, won't your sympathy be overflowing? Can't wait to be the savior of the world." Creak. The half-closed door was pushed open. A man's rough voice came from inside. "Little monkey, you're getting more and more capable. These two look like big fat fishes. If we kill them, we'll be full for a long time." Behind the door, a few short figures slowly moved out. "Yes, move." Chapter 3162. 1 second. Remember, LoveNet, providing you with wonderful reading. Because these people's hands and feet seemed to be paralyzed, unable to stand up. They couldn't even crawl normally. They could only rely on their elbows to move forward bit by bit. But they were clearly used to this. Their tattered clothes couldn't hide the scars and calluses on their hands and feet. Dragging such broken bodies, they crawled out from the inside in the blink of an eye. The light from outside shone on their faces. Only then did Mu Yan see that there were more than 10 men. Every one of them had the tendons of their arms and legs broken, so they could only crawl. Moreover, they seemed to have been living like this for many, many years, and had long become accustomed to it. Their faces were incomparably haggard and thin, full of traces of hardships. But between their brows, one could still see the valiance and heroism of the past. Seeing them come out, the little monkey, who was clearly just a child, picked his teeth with a piece of straw and said with disdain, "What do you know? These two are more than just two big fish, they are also my little monkeys, guarantee for a meteoric rise." "What do you mean?" The little monkey cast a sidelong glance at Li Weiran, and said with confidence, "Do you know that Mountain Splits sect has already issued a wanted order throughout the entire Rocky Hill to find the murderer of that fat woman Zhang Guihong? When I first saw this gigolo in Shi City, I immediately recognized him. You're the boy toy that Zhang Guihong fancied at that time, right? Li Weiran, who was treated as a pretty boy and a boy toy, touched his face innocently. He turned towards Mu Yan and curled his lips. His light pink lips opened and closed slightly, silently spitting out 3 words, "It's all your fault." The corner of Mu Yan's mouth twitched, and she ignored him. The little monkey continued to speak excitedly. When I found them earlier, I informed Mountain Split Sect. Now they're bringing people over. Now that I've personally captured these 2, as long as we hand them over, guess how much reward Mountain Split Sect will give us. Ha ha ha. The few men who were crawling over were stunned, their eyes flashing with humiliation and hatred. But it was quickly replaced by a compromising smile. That's great, Mountain Split Sect will definitely sell the people for a good price. At least for the next year and a half, we won't have to worry about food and drink. That's right. This way, Rui Nyang won't have to work so hard. It's been a long time since Boss has nourished his body. We must make him eat more this time. However, Little Monkey's face darkened when he heard that. He glared fiercely at the door and was about to speak. The woman on the bed frowned slightly and woke up. Mother, you're awake. The sinister and cunning look on the little monkey's face instantly disappeared without a trace. He threw himself at the beautiful woman and carefully lifted her up. Mother, how do you feel? Are you hungry? Don't worry, we'll have food and money soon. I will never let you go hungry again. The beautiful woman's face was pale. Just a small movement caused her breathing to quicken and her chest to heave violently. She looked around the room and saw Mu Yan sitting on the edge of the bed and Li Weiran beside her. Startled, she asked, "You two are?" The little monkey said proudly, "Mother, these 2 people are wanted criminals that the mountain-splitting sect wants to capture. It wasn't easy for me to trick them and even gave them the bone-softening powder. Now that they can't move at all, we just need to hand them over to the mountain-splitting sect and we won't have to worry about food and drink in the future." Chapter 3163. Saying that, he tells the story of how he tricked Mayan and the little boy, like he's presenting a treasure. In the end, he grabs the beautiful woman's hand, his big eyes full of expectation. "Mother, when we have money, I'll go find the best doctor in Gravel Hill. He'll definitely be able to cure your illness." "No, you can't." Hearing that, the beautiful woman suddenly becomes excited. What did Mother teach you before? Even if you're poor and bitter, you can't do such a heartless thing. If you're just swindling money and food, Mother won't say anything. But they're kind enough to help you believe you, and you want to harm their lives. What's the difference between this and an ungrateful animal? Hurry, give them the antidote for cartilage powder. I won't. The little monkey shakes off the beautiful woman's hand. His eyes are red, tears swirling in them. "Mother, you've been sick for so long. If you don't have money to eat and see a doctor, you'll die. If I have to watch Mother die, I'd rather let someone else die." The beautiful woman can't help but tear up. But she still grits her teeth and says, Listen to Mother, we'd rather starve to death than do something that crosses our bottom line. Hurry and give them the antidote for cartilage powder." Won't you listen to Mother?" "I won't listen. I won't listen." The little monkey suddenly shouted hysterically, "Exchanging them for money is a violation of the bottom line. Mother, is it right for you to sell your body and let those men defile you every day in order to support all of us? Is it right to torture you until you are sick all over your body?" The child's voice is sharp and piercing, full of reckless madness and resentment. But it's mostly choked with sobs, unable to conceal the pain and despair in his voice. Mayan's eyes flash, her lips slightly move, but in the end, she doesn't speak. And she doesn't notice. Not far away, Li Weiran, who has been lazily leaning against the wall, suddenly clenches the rusty iron railing in his hand. The rough rust cuts his white palm, oozing blood, but he doesn't feel it at all. The room falls into a momentary silence. After a long while, a rough and hoarse voice rings out, "Little monkey, how can you say that about your mother? Shut up." The little monkey roared angrily, its tiny body trembling non-stop. "It's all because of you. For so many years, if it wasn't for the fact that my mother had to support you and that wastrel inside, would she have needed to sell her body? If it wasn't for those men defiling her time and time again, how could my mother have contracted a serious illness? How could she give birth to a bastard child like me who doesn't even know who his father is? This is all your fault." Hot tears rolled down the boy's thin face. It also slid down the faces of these handsome men. The lips of the brawny man who spoke just now trembled a few times before he bent his body and buried his face in his chest. It's us trash that dragged Ruinyang down. After so many years, we shouldn't have been alive." Another person also choked with sobs as he beat his chest fiercely. "Ruinyang was so valiant and heroic back then, but because of us, she became like this today. We deserve to die, all of us deserve to die." The light in the beautiful woman's eyes dimmed as tears wet her long eyelashes. Mayan could see that in the depths of her eyes, there's grief and despair, as if her heart had died. It's as if there's some kind of conviction that's firmly supporting her. Even under such unbearable torture, she still persevered and endured. Chapter 3164. Don't say any more. The beautiful woman doesn't yell hysterically like them. Instead, she says in a slightly hoarse voice, "Didn't we agree when we first came to Gravel Hill? For boss, no matter what price we have to pay, we are willing to bear it." Her voice is calm. But the hand that was pressed on the bed was clenched so tightly that the tattered bedsheets were crumpled. Obviously, the humiliation and torture she has endured all these years is far from as easy as she says at this moment. "Whether we fall into hell or be consigned to eternal damnation, as long as boss can live, we don't care. Now, because I have the conditions to do it, I'm doing it. If you could do it, wouldn't you have made the same choice?" The dozen or so strong men crawling on the ground are all in tears for a moment, sobbing silently. The beautiful woman blushes and reaches out to caress the little monkey's face. It doesn't matter if Nyang falls into hell, but you can't. For Nyang, you are the best gift that heaven has given me. Nyang hopes that you will always be clean, until one day you can follow boss out of here." The little monkey can't bear it anymore. He cries out loud and throws himself into the beautiful woman's arms, hugging her tightly. "Nyang, I thought you hated me. Because I'm the son of those bad guys who forced you, I thought you didn't want to give birth to me." The beautiful woman tightly hugs the little monkey's small body, 2 lines of clear tears slide down her pale cheeks. The moment she raises her head, she meets Mayan's eyes. The beautiful woman's face shows a guilty expression. "I'm sorry, I implicated you." The antidote for the bone-softening powder. She hasn't finished speaking when Mayan suddenly raises her hand and stuffs a pill into her mouth. The beautiful woman is caught off guard and swallows the pill with a gudonk sound. What did you give my Nyang to eat? Damn it, weren't they poisoned with the bone-softening powder? Why can this woman still move? She must have fed Ruinyang poison. Quickly think of a way to make Ruinyang spit out the poison. The little monkey shouts and pounces towards Mayan. "You dare to harm my Nyang, I'll fight you." However, before he could even get close to Mu Yen, he was grabbed by the neck and lifted into the air. Mu Yen slightly lowered her eyebrows and looked at him mockingly. "Do you think that because you're young, no matter what bad things you do, you can be forgiven?" A slightly evil smile appeared on her face. Looking at your mother's sickly appearance, I know she can't teach you a lesson. Why don't I do it for her? Stop. Let go of the little monkey. Woman, you dare to hurt the little monkey. I'll fight you to the death. The brawny men on the ground roared as they crawled over, their faces filled with panic and worry. As for the beautiful woman who had been fed the pill by Mu Yan, she was clutching her stomach, her body trembling non-stop. She stretched out her trembling hand to save the little monkey, but her hand fell down powerlessly. He could only beg again and again in a low voice, "Please, please, spare my child." The little monkey's face was red, and he kept waving his skinny and muddy hands. He screamed, "Kill me if you can. Kill me. I'm not afraid of you." Maying raised her hand and a binding immortal rope flew out from the storage space. It tied the little monkey's hands and hung him on the beam. Chapter 3165. Then, Mu Yan turns to look at the little chick. "Huang Huang, do you still remember how to teach a disobedient child a lesson?" "Gugugugu. Jijijijiji. I remember. I want to spank your ass. Take off your pants and spank your ass. Let me do it. Let me do it. Mom, Huang Huang wants to spank this child's ass." When the little chick found out that the little brother he sympathized with had poisoned his mother and brother blindfolded, he was half dead with anger. He felt that his tears were all in vain. He couldn't wait to teach this deceitful child a lesson, but he didn't expect his mother to give him the chance so soon. Goo-woo. The little chick's eyes twinkle, and it suddenly makes a strange cry. The plum ball pounced on the little monkey that was hung up in the air. With a tearing sound, the little monkey's pants are taken off, revealing his white butt. The little chick's two big eyes shine. Then, he spread his little wings and aimed at the little monkey's white and tender butt, and started to attack from both sides. Paw 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 paw. As it hits, it doesn't forget to dub itself, "Hit. Hit. Hit." The crippled men who rushed over to save the little monkey are dumbfounded. The beautiful woman, who almost rolled off the bed, is dumbfounded. Even Mu Yan is stunned for a long time, before she covers her forehead. Heavens! What kind of a bunch of brats did she take in? Hit 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 hit. Not long after, the little monkey's white butt is swollen. It's bright red, like a ripe peach. The little monkey, who has been dumbfounded for a long time, finally realizes what happened. The precocious, lawless little monkey, who has always treated himself as an adult, can't stand this kind of humiliation, and finally bursts into tears. As he cries, he twists his red and swollen butt, sobbing, "I'm going to kill you. Bastard, I'm going to kill you." Mu Yan turns a deaf ear to his cries and curses, waiting for the little chick to get tired before waving at it. The little chick immediately hops into Mu Yan's arms. Unexpectedly, Mu Yan dodged to the side and said in disgust, "The feathers that hit this brat's dirty but still dare to pounce on me. Do you think it's easy for me to take a bath? Go wash yourself and dry yourself before coming back to see me." Little Inghuo wasn't dejected at all. Instead, it happily ran into the river of stars to wash itself clean. The little monkey, who had finally stopped being beaten, couldn't help but burst into tears again when he heard the words, "the dirty buttocks of the naughty brats." He really was older than he looked. But in reality, he was only 10 years old. He was still a child. Now that he had suffered a series of blows, he could no longer maintain his mature and steady demeanor, completely revealing his true nature as a child. Mu Yan listens to his cries with great interest. Only then does she take back the binding immortal rope, letting him fall to the ground. In the end, her red butt landed on the ground. The little monkey let out an earth-shattering scream. As he shouted, he hurriedly pulled up his tattered pants that could not cover his entire body. His red and swollen eyes fiercely glare at Mayan. But the moment Mayan raised her hand, she screams in fright and hides behind the table. The few crippled men have clearly never seen this child like this. At this time, they can't help but want to laugh. Mu Yan no longer cares about the brat, but turns to look at the beautiful woman. Do you feel better? Chapter 3166. The beautiful woman stares blankly, pressing her hand against her chest, an incredulous expression on her face. The medicine you gave me just now. Mayan smiles in surprise. This medicine can't cure your illness, but it can prolong your life. It's not that your illness can't be cured, but it requires some special herbs. I'm afraid I can't find them for the time being. The two are sitting on the bed, talking, and their voices aren't heavy. Plus, the room is still reverberating with the little monkey's unreconciled curses. So only the knife-scarred man, who's closest to the bed, can hear their conversation. He suddenly raises his head, looking at Mayan in bewilderment. After a long while, he uses a slightly rough voice to ask, just who are you? Mayan doesn't have the time to answer. Suddenly, there's the sound of messy and noisy footsteps outside. Immediately after, through the broken window, they can see strong men holding weapons, wearing the same clothes. They surround the entire room, and even the surrounding alleyways. Bang! The door is directly kicked open. Several figures fiercely rush in. Didn't you say that you caught a wanted criminal of my mountain split sect? Where is he? The room is quiet for a moment. The beautiful woman's eyes reveal anxiety and annoyance. But she still forces herself to calm down, using a slightly gentle voice to say, Masters, are you mistaken? We haven't seen any wanted criminal. At this time, Li Weiran is leaning against the corner of the wall, his whole body sunk into the shadows, making it hard for people to discover him. But Mayan is sitting next to the beautiful woman, and her appearance is so dazzling that it can't be concealed. So the mountain split sect disciples that rush in, immediately focus their attention on her. Who is this? The beautiful woman pretends to be calm. This is my younger sister, she just came to see me from her husband's house today. Bullshit, the leader roars. Do you think we're stupid? This person's clothes are so luxurious, but you're dressed in rags. If your sister is really so rich, why would you need to squeeze into this Ghost Fair's refugee cave? The person behind him comes forward with a fiendish expression. Disgraceful thing, you actually dare to play with the people of my mountain split sect. Are you tired of living? Saying that, he tries to pull the beautiful woman's hair. Don't hurt my mother. The little monkey screamed and rushed out like a cannonball, standing in front of the beautiful woman to protect her. She and him, they are the wanted criminals of the mountain splitting sect. You have to arrest them, not my mother. With the little monkey pointing at them, everyone from the mountain splitting sect finally noticed Li Weiran's existence. There was no need for confirmation. Just by looking at the symbolic and dazzling red ribbon, the people from the mountain split sect confirmed that these two were the people the manager wanted to capture. Sure enough, it was these two audacious villains. As long as we can bring him back, Steward Zhang will definitely reward us well. Ha ha ha, luckily we are in charge of the Ghost Fair. I didn't expect to catch them so easily. The leader coughed lightly and looked coldly at Mu Yan and Li Weiran. I heard from Steward Zhang that these two thugs are extremely cruel. They killed all the servants in the Zhang residence by themselves. Everyone, don't let your guard down and let them escape. Senior brother, don't worry. The people in the Zhang residence are all trash that don't know martial arts. How could they compare to the official disciples of our mountain split sect's outer sect? Now that we have so many people, plus the disciples from the sect who received the news and are rushing over, I'm afraid that the entire Ghost Fair has already been surrounded. Even if they grew wings, they still wouldn't be able to escape. Chapter 3167. Laughing and joking, but they still carefully spread out their formation, surrounding Mu Yan and Li Weiran. The beautiful woman's eyes are filled with anxiety and guilt, but her gaze sweeps over the little monkey, the half-closed door, and the crippled brawny man on the ground without any ability to resist. In the end, she painfully closes her eyes. In that instant, she feels that the beliefs and dignity of the first half of her life have all become a joke. Reward. What happened to the promised reward? The little monkey clenches his teeth, throwing himself in front of the leader. I was the one who reported these two wanted criminals. Didn't you say that we would be given a year's worth of rations? Paw. Just what qualifications do you lowly commoners have to receive a reward? The leader kicks him away. Just now, you tried in vain to cover for these two criminals. I still haven't settled the score with you. Hee, senior brother, although this little bitch is a bit old, she still has her charm. A vulgar-looking mountain split sect disciple grabs the beautiful woman's hair, a wretched smile on his face. Why don't we bring this woman back as well? The leader laughs heartily. Sure, if you're interested, there's no harm in bringing her back to play. Bastard, let go of Rui Nyang. Mother, you're not allowed to touch my mother, scram. The little monkey's eyes redden, throwing caution to the wind, grabbing onto the mountain split sect disciple's thigh, ruthlessly biting down. Aw! Bastard! You actually dare to bite me. That mountain split sect disciple feels a sharp pain coming from his thigh, and instantly flies into a rage. He picks up the little monkey, and gives it 2 big slaps from both sides. The little monkey spits out a mouthful of blood, and even his teeth tumble down. But that disciple still doesn't feel satisfied, and grabs the little monkey's neck, lifting him up high, and is about to smash him to the ground. Stop! You're not allowed to hurt the little monkey. If you dare to hurt my I'll kill you. The beautiful woman and the crippled brawny men all go crazy when they see this scene. They recklessly throw themselves over. Even if their bodies are weak, even if they don't have limbs, it's as if they want to perish together with the mountain split sect people. Especially after the beautiful woman took Mayan's medicine, it was clear that she had regained some of her strength. At this moment, he pounced onto the body of the mountain split sect disciple who was holding onto the little monkey, and actually grabbed onto his hair, fiercely biting towards his ear. Aw! The man let out a shrill scream. The place where his left ear used to be was now empty and fresh blood was gushing out. As for the beautiful woman who was just a moment ago, her face was twisted as she chewed on the ear that she had bitten off. His appearance was truly like that of a malicious ghost. The leading disciple of the mountain split sect was shocked at first, then he suddenly pulled out his long sword and fiercely slashed. Immediately, the crippled man closest to him was bleeding profusely. A hole had been pierced through his abdomen. However, the crippled man acted as if he didn't know pain at all. He directly grabbed the long sword and grinned hideously. The actions of the leading disciple seemed to have lit a fuse. The other mountain split sect disciples also took out their weapons and charged towards the beautiful woman and the crippled robust man. Soon, the beautiful woman was grabbed by the hair, dislocated her limbs, and lifted up. Bitch, bitch. Bitch. You actually dared to bite off my ear, bitch, I'll kill you. The man carrying the beautiful woman was unable to restrain his anger, and his eyes were practically spitting fire. He actually grabbed the beautiful woman's hair, and fiercely slammed her against the wall at the side. Chapter 3168. Mayan's eyes turn cold, the 7 absolute swords faintly discernible in her palm. However, at this moment, a figure flits before her eyes. Then, A faint, strange noise resounds in this narrow, dilapidated room. Mayan's nose faintly smells the scent of fresh blood. She looks up in astonishment, only to see that the chests of the Mountain Split sect disciples, who were still fiendish just a moment ago, all have huge bloody holes. Some of their hearts have been directly crushed. Some of their intestines have been pulled out, dripping with blood as they hang outside. But they're still in a daze, as if they simply didn't have the time to realize what's happening to their bodies. 3 breaths, just 3 breaths later. All the Mountain Split sect disciples in this dilapidated room have collapsed, dying without a complete corpse, dying with remaining grievances. The little monkey is scared silly. The beautiful woman and the disabled brawny man are all dumbfounded. Even Mayan's eyes widen, unable to come back to her senses for a moment. A slender figure rose in front of her like a wisp of green smoke, and gradually condensed into a solid form. Li Wei ran. Mayan's pupils shrink, her gaze falling on his hand. Drip, drip. His slender fingers are already completely covered in blood. Glaring bright red drops drip by drip from his fingertips. That light gray coarse robe was already stained with blood at some point in time. Just like those blooming flowers. The surrounding air is filled with a kind of bone-chilling heat and gloomy coldness. Mayan's entire body tenses up in a split second. The extreme nervousness made her summon the 7 absolute swords unconsciously. She can feel that the youngster in front of her, this Li Wei Ran of unknown origin, whether he's really blind or not, is currently in a very dangerous situation. If she's the slightest bit careless, it won't just be the Mountain Split sect disciples who will die, but everyone in this room. However, before she can move, an ice-cold and sticky hand grabs her wrist. Mayan hears a low, hoarse voice ringing in her ears. You see, I've already killed them all. No one will bully you anymore. So, don't leave me, okay? The 5 fingers on her wrist suddenly tighten. Mayan can almost hear the sound of her bones being squeezed. Her brows slightly wrinkle, and she can't help but struggle a bit. However, it was such a smile. Li Wei Ran didn't know which part of him was triggered. Why? Why don't you believe that I can protect you? Why is it that no matter how well I do, you're never willing to look back at me? The youngster's face was twisted, and his voice was sharp and shrill. Look into my eyes, look. Why wouldn't I dare to look? Mayan thought, let me see you take off the red scarf on your face. You're blindfolded and you're asking me if I dare to look. Are all perverts so weird? Suddenly, her expression froze, and her eyes slightly widened. Because she saw 2 streams of tears of blood slowly flowing down from the red silk covering her eyes. The ferocious expression on the youth's face had vanished. His glistening white skin contrasted with the dazzling scarlet, and it actually reflected a type of sorrowful desolation. Is it because I look too much like that person? Or are you disgusted by my blood-stained hands? Tell me. Who did this guy mistake me for? He was clearly fine just a moment ago, just like how a pervert should be. What stimulated him to suddenly become like this? Mu Yan groans inwardly. The pain from his wrist was getting more and more intense. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.